The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. This is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive. But we break on command 'cause women rule the world. Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa Nicole Thomas.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, October 6th, Sunday, October 7th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. I hope you had a rockin' weekend, an awesome day, and an even better evening. And I am your host, TessaTNT. And I am live tonight, broadcasting from beautiful Bayfield, Colorado. We are 1,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online, dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. Tonight, I have a special treat for all you guys and gals out there. Tonight, we're going to be hanging out and telling ghost stories with myself and my sister Kathy. So here real quick, I'm going to read our little bio. Tessa and Kat want to live in a world filled with paranormal unity, with hotels whose signs scream, "Yes, we're haunted, come on in," and a world where paranormal and supernatural aliens and knowledge of such things are commonplace, and a force field around their keyboard to repel cats, teenagers, ghosts, munchies, liquids, and sticky-fingered toddlers. As paranormal enthusiasts with more than 60 years of experience under their belts, they have worked many areas from the Carolinas to Washington State, and then planting their roots snugly in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, as well as the Appalachians of Arkansas. Tessa is a regular contributor to the paranormal field in the Four Corners and surrounding area, giving haunted tours, throwing haunted parties, as well as lessons on the paranormal and how do all these crazy tools work. She founded the Four Corners Investigations in 2012 when tragedy struck in her community and trying to recover answers to questions. When they're not investigating hauntings, chasing out dark entities, and freeing spirits, you can find them gardening, photographing, and looking at the sky again, and whipping up delicious treats, running barefoot, and answering the question why for the 11th bajillionth time. Their first paranormal experience began as infants. Kathy, Tessa, and her team worked to find evidence for questions so many paranormal enthusiasts and not quite believers ask. Is there life after death? Is my house haunted? Am I batshit crazy? Who are these spirits? Well, she, her sister Kathy, and her amazing team continue to search and grow in number every year and will continue to do so until we find evidence behind these questions. So, yes, I'm so excited to have Kathy here. I've been waiting for this for so long, and we do have so much experience in this field. I don't know whether it's through our genetics or, places we've lived, but we've encountered spirits and otherworldly things and different entities throughout our life. Kathy, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I've waited so long for this. And I really, really feel like that it's genetics. I feel like that our mom was touched and that we're touched, that all of our siblings are touched. And the ones that we've honed it and made it stronger, I know that your children are touched. And I really, really feel like it is just a gift. Yeah, yes, I'm so excited. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody.
Well, what an awesome way to spend our weekend or our Saturday night.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a long time. I'm so excited.
Me too. And, I've been talking to you about the show and, wanting you to hear it. And then, I was like, hey, why don't you just come on and we can just tell our stories to everybody and give them an idea of what we've been through. And Kevin McDougal, a.k.a. Moonlight, in the chat room says, oh, you're touched. Come on, Kevin.
Reach out and touch someone.
Right.
No, I think that's just really just a way to put things like we really are. It's just it's a special thing to be able to see the things that we do and to experience the things that we do. But it can also be a very scary thing too at times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Who is Kathy Weaver?
Oh, Kathy Weaver. Okay, I'm 46 years young. I live in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas, and I've been all over the world, and I'm happily divorced, and I have 2 beautiful grown children. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren, and I have this beautiful, amazing sister that just shines, and that's who I am.
Aw, you're so sweet.
I love you.
I love you too. So I'm excited for you. Like, you just moved back into your house and you're getting everything cleaned up and getting a new lease on life. I mean, things are looking bright. And have you had any encounters since you've been back home, or any feeling like somebody's there or seen anything?
Yes, I have. I've had a knock at the door. I've had a tap on the shoulder, and it's just some friendly things that have been going on, and I'm in a very happy place right now, and I'm in a very good place, and I feel like that whatever's surrounding me right now is a good thing. It's a protecting thing. It's letting me know that it's okay and I'm okay, and that's a good feeling, because there's been times in our past when the things that surround me were not so accepting and were not so loving, that they were very, very destructive and very, it goes through stages, and I'm in a good place right now. And I really feel like that whatever is surrounding me and whatever is here is good. And that's always a good feeling.
It is. And sometimes there's the question, is it good or what's going on? When I went to Phoenix to house sit for my mama Sandy, while her and my sister Amanda went on a cruise, things were going on here in the house. And, my brother Bear, his picture got thrown off the wall and broke the glass and everything. And my daughter Nova was hearing my husband trying to get out of the bedroom, and she'd go in and check on him, and he was asleep. And she's like, really, you're sleeping? And and went back out and laid down and then heard it again and got up and went to the bedroom and he was sleeping. And then about the third time, she's like, all right, I'm just going to stay in here tonight because this is really freaking me out. And when she told me that, right before I went to Phoenix, I was laying in bed and perusing Facebook and, watching ghost stories, celebrity ghost stories and ghost adventures and whatever on YouTube, because I fall asleep to that stuff, believe it or not. And I could hear Nova screaming like bloody murder and Mom help me and banging on the wall, and I would go out and she was asleep. And I would go back, and as soon as my pillow or my head would hit the pillow, I would hear her screaming for me again, and it was louder and more intense. And Mom, please help me. And I thought somebody was attacking her because we don't lock our doors around here. We're basically in the country. We call it Bayberry, like Bayberry, but it's Bayfield, yes. So Bayberry. And so yeah, the third time I went out, I was just like, okay, something's messing with me, or maybe it's the fan, maybe the fan's making me hear things. But when she said that, that had happened to her as well, I'm like, okay, something's going on. And this house is haunted. It has been since the day we moved in. And John is the name of the ghost here, and he died from emphysema. And I heard him cough one day when I was heading to work, and I was like, holy crap, I'm glad I'm going to work, because I was the only one there. I'm like, who's in my house? and then my neighbor, Lisa, told me that a guy had died here from emphysema. So I was like, oh, okay. But supposedly, according to a couple psychics I've talked to on here, there's one stuck in the hallway, which when I was gone as well, a lot of stuff got knocked off the gun cabinet and another cabinet we have in the hallway. So something was throwing a paranormal fit, but luckily nobody was injured. I think they were just trying to get acknowledgement or something. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, when you can see spirits and when you can see ghosts, it's like the tiniest ember in a pitch dark room, and they're drawn to that. They are absolutely drawn to that because they do want to be seen, and they do want to be noticed, and they do want to be recognized. I know for me, I don't have quite the in-depth gifts that you have. Like when I was young, I could see and talk to spirits. I could see them, I could talk to them, and as I got older, and when I was young, I had no fear. Like I had no fear when I was little. When I was very, very little, we lived way out. They called it Booger Holler. We lived way out in the middle of nowhere in Boston, Arkansas. And there was, we had our house that we lived in, and there was like 100-year-old house that was, within probably 50 feet of our house that we just used for storage because it was such an old house. And I was just very, very little. And I used to sit on the porch, and I used to talk to the man who was an old man who would sit in a rocking chair, and he had coveralls on, and I would play at his feet and talk to him for hours. And I had no fear. And we held conversations, and I knew from a very young age about ghosts. I knew he wasn't real. And I know it sounds really cliche because, how can you tell a ghost? I always tell people, how can you tell a ghost? Because you can see through them. So, even though they look so real, when you can see through them, they're ghosts. So I knew from a very young age that they were ghosts. And then and then as I got a little bit older and got a little bit more life experience, watched scary movies, and then I became very fearful for a while. And that I believe that fear allowed some to come in that weren't very friendly. And, but for my whole life, I've always been able to see that. Now I see them more than I talk to them. But I know there has been ghosts. When I see one, I acknowledge them because, there was an experience I had when I was married to my husband, and we were arguing this certain day, and I kept seeing this ghost. I seen him in my rearview mirror. I knew it was a ghost. I could see through him. And a car coming by, he was sitting in the back seat. I kept seeing him all day long, but I was so angry because of this argument that me and my husband had that I didn't acknowledge him. And when I came home to my home, this very home that I've moved back into now, it was being remodeled, and we had rough floors. The mirror was sitting on the floor, and we had a very heavy step stool that it took 2 hands to lift the step stool. And I was sitting doing my makeup, and I looked in the mirror, and the stool just flew across the room. And I was like, okay, hi, hello, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day, and I'm sorry, but hello, how are you? Are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Just that acknowledgement, and he was gone. So I think just like the acknowledgement for them is such a big thing.
Dale, in the chat room was asking, did the old man ghost have good stories, and did you have good chats? Do you remember what the internal, part of the conversation was? What exactly you guys were talking about?
Yes, he was just very comforting, and he was just just talking to me about life and just kind of like a grandpa would talk to you. He wasn't fearful, and he would just rock in his chair, and I'd play at his feet, and mom would come out and be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm talking to this man. And she'd be like, okay, because she knew, because she's seen things too her whole life and had premonitions yeah, it was just a very comforting thing. Like, it wasn't no kind of fear at all. And I mean, I can see him so plain to this day. And that was my very first memory of having interactions with a ghost.
And it makes me wonder if it was, one of our relatives or perhaps somebody that had lived in that area a long time ago that tended that land or something that was there. And you said the house was over 100 years old, and this is back in 1970.
Probably 74.
Yeah.
Probably 74. Probably 74, 75. And I believe in my heart that he was the owner of the house, the original house. Like, that was his house. He never left the house. And he just lived there. Because, you said that Dad had seen him too. Going up into...
Yeah, Dad said that, they were laying in bed one night and he heard something, or something caught his eye, and he looked over and there was a ladder, which wasn't really there, but there was the ladder going into, what would be the attic space. And he could see from like the shoulders down of this person, and he could see that he was wearing coveralls, or what people would call overalls. So that was pretty interesting, but he said it really, really freaked him out. And then he also told me that shortly after I was born, I'm not sure how old I was, but we ended up moving out of the house. I was probably like 6 months old. And something there, which was probably, this guy was very upset and basically threw a paranormal fit and was making dishes fly out of the cabinets and slamming cabinet doors and making a whole bunch of ruckus, literally shaking the house, because he didn't want us to leave.
Yes, he really did not want us to leave.
Do you remember
he did
that?
Not want us to leave. Yes, I remember that, and I remember feeling sad. He was sad, but anger is a secondary emotion, and when you feel angry, it stems from something else always, and it was his sadness. Like, he really did. I just got chills all over. He did not want us to leave. He loved us. He really, really loved us.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I don't think he meant to scare Dad, but he did, because Dad had never seen anything before, and he knew Mom was spooky, and she was very gifted. She could not only see
very,
the dead,
very gifted,
but she would go and talk to them and communicate with them and smoke with them and, all kinds of stuff. And she even knew, she knew when she was going to die, what was going to happen, and even planned her own funeral.
She knew. I remember that so well, Tessa. She knew. Okay, I remember. Okay, she knew she was going to die. And she wrote a letter to her father, okay, our grandfather. And she said that she was going to die. She said, I'm going to die. This is where I want to go and be buried. This is what I want to wear. And I can remember she mailed the letter to Grandpa. And when Grandpa got the letter, I remember there was such an argument because he was so angry about this letter. But you know what? It got her what she wanted. She got to be buried where she wanted. She got to wear what she wanted to wear because of this letter. She knew. And the day that she died, she knew. She knew something. She knew that day. And because I remember that Dad was taking you and our little brother, and Mom was we were all going to meet up. Like, they were all going to go do different errands, and we were all going to meet up in a central location. And I wanted to go. I had my friend spending the night. I wanted to go with my mom. And I threw a fit, and my mom, She stayed in bed all that night, crying all night long. Like she knew something was going to happen. And I asked her, I was like, I begged her. And I was being a brat. I'm like, please just let me go with you. And she finally relented and let me and my friend go with her. And I remember it was such a good day.
Well,
like it was such a good.
Yeah, well, it was, she actually drove me over, and I believe her name was Tracy, right?
It was Regina.
The
one that, yeah.
Yeah, she drove me over to that house, and that's where you and Regina were. I think you were staying the night at her house. And the whole time, she was just like white knuckle clutching the steering wheel and saying, please don't let me die, please don't let me die. Like, she knew that had I been in the car when this happened, I wouldn't have survived. But I think she knew, if you guys were there, you would be not okay, but you would not perish in the accident. And I remember it was raining for a short moment when we got there, and I didn't go in the house. I got into the car, not Mom's car, but the car of the mom of Regina, and was crying and crying and crying, and then all of a sudden the rain stopped, and I felt like this calmness about me, and like everything was okay. And then I went into the house, and it was like complete and total utter chaos. I mean, Regina's mom was on the phone, and they're running around and they're screaming, and they're like, get your stuff together, we gotta go. And that's when they had gotten the call from you, and you don't even remember running to the phone, do you? Like, you had a broken hip and everything.
Like, yeah, I had a broken pelvis. I sure do. And what had happened, the reason Mom saved our life was because when everything went in slow motion, when the wreck happened, it happened on there was a complete U corner, but there was a road that went off the corner. So it looked like if you were coming from a distance from the opposite direction, that the road went straight, but actually it didn't. It was a complete U. It was like a 20-mile-per-hour U. And we were coming around that corner. Well, there was some guys from Texas. They were driving on the wrong side of the road because it looked like the road was straight and went on forever, but it really didn't. And as soon as Mom seen them coming and seen that we were going to hit, right before we impacted, she turned and took the full, complete impact. And everything just happened in slow motion. Like everything happened in slow motion. She saved my life. She saved my life by sacrificing hers. And that's how that went down.
And I kind of think that's what was going on, because we'll get back to our earlier years and things that happened that led up to that. But I think the devil was involved, and had she not sacrificed herself, something would have happened to us.
Yes. And I believe he fought for us. Like the devil wanted us. The devil, and for years after that, I feel like the devil felt like that we were his. And he wanted Mom and her gifts, and I believe that she would not give him what he wanted, and he played a part in taking her life. But I do know that and this is kind of fast forward for a few years, but when we got in that bad wreck, when me and my daughter got in the bad wreck up on the mountain, and we were up on the mountain in the Ozarks, and the car malfunctioned, we lost control of the car, and we were going all four wheels off the ground. Everything happened in slow motion. It just amazes me how everything happens in slow motion. And I know that I was supposed to die. I know that I was going to die. And this is how I know that when you die, no matter how violent or how tragic it is, when it's really your time to die, you don't have fear. Because I had no fear. I knew I was going to die. I wasn't worried about my kids. I wasn't worried about nobody. I remember having all four wheels off the ground, and we were 25 feet off. We were 25 feet off of a dry creek bed, headed to the dry creek bed, seeing the tops of trees. And I remember thinking, wow, I wonder if Mom seen such a beautiful view when she died. I wasn't afraid at all. And then bam, I woke up. The only thing that saved our life is that we hit one tree, T-boned another tree, and it kept us from going off the 25-foot cliff. And we go to the hospital. Yeah, we go to the hospital. We're in the hospital. I had my tibia and fibula were both broke. My daughter had a seatbelt injury, and my son just had minor injuries. And like, we never wore a seatbelt, but we all had a seatbelt on that day. And my best friend came up to see me, and she said, Kathy, I was in the shower, taking a shower. She said, and I had a vision. I had a vision of your mom going to God, begging God for your life. And so I know in my heart that I was supposed to die. I was supposed to perish that day, but Mom begged God for my life, and God granted my mom her desire, and I had my life.
Yeah, I remember when you guys left, I just had a feeling. You know how we get those gut instincts, and we just know. We don't know how we know, but we know. And I went around the car like 5 or 6 times, and I was telling Thea, please, 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 because she was really tired. I was like, please do not take your seatbelt off. If you need to lay down, lay down like this. It'll be comfortable. You don't have to take your seatbelt off. And over and over again, like, she was probably tired of me telling her, but I just knew something was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I was so mad at Richard because he's the one that made you guys go. And I was I was like, I even told him, like, they are not in a safe, manner to be going over this road, because we did have a late night and everything. And I just felt like you were in danger. And so I knew Thea was the key, like, please wear your seatbelt. And I know I told you, and Chris was in the car too. And,
yes.
And then you guys left, and it wasn't very much later. The helicopters flew over the house, and I was like, oh my God, it's Kathy. Kathy, is in trouble. We need to try to get a hold of her, and we couldn't get through to you on your cell phone. And I was flipping out, which really pissed off Greg. Like, he was getting upset with me. And then we got the phone call that you guys were at the hospital, and we flew down there really quick, and you guys were both in the same room, and Thea was crying, and you were in shock, and it was just crazy and scary. But I had an incident as well with a car accident, and it was in a very beautiful place as well. And that's where I tell people, like, be careful of your thoughts, because your mind is a powerful thing. And
yes.
And you can control your thoughts. So be mindful of what you think. And I was thinking on the way up there, like, this is such a beautiful place. And if I ever died anywhere, I'd want it to be somewhere like this. And then on the way back, there's, 1,500, 1,000-foot drop-offs, straight edge. And it's getting less and less steep. And I'm coming around this corner, and I hit some corduroy, and I fishtail. But then I get it back under control, and then it's like somebody yanked the steering wheel, and I went off.
Yes, that's what happened to me in
Yeah.
my wreck. Something yanked my steering wheel, and I figured it was just a car malfunction, but something yanked my steering wheel.
It was so weird, and we had just barely missed a 500-foot drop-off and hit the 50-footer instead, and luckily there was about, probably a foot or 2 feet of pine needles built up, and I kept my eyes open until I saw exactly where we were hitting, and then I closed my eyes and just held on for dear life. And when we came to, as far as we landed, it was exactly like yours. Like, this tree saved us. Had we not hit this tree, we would have gone like 500 foot off this drop-off into a dry riverbed. And I can hear this noise, and it's like this gasping, trying to breathe noise. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Dave, or, whoever wasn't wearing their seatbelt. And I look up, and it's Tyler, and we were able to roll the car off of him, and he was fine. Like, he was in shock and, like, freaked out, but he wasn't injured at all because of the softness of the bed of needles. And,
right.
And we went back the next day, and we were kind of scared. Like, are we really still alive? Are we going to go and find our dead bodies in this car? Like, what are we going to find when we get there? But it was pretty scary and interesting. Like, there was that, like, slow motion and that sense of peace.
Yes.
And it's going to be okay, but we lived through it. And
I think, too, like, a lot of people don't realize, too, that not only do your thoughts have power, but your words. When you speak things, words have life, and words have power. So be careful what you speak, too, because you can speak some stuff into existence.
Yeah, for sure. Or even, they call it thought forms. If you think of something so much, like Slender Man. Supposedly it started off as a tale, but so many people thinking of it, believing in it, telling it over and over again, they've kind of created this thought form. It's given energy to some sort of entity that has been created by man.
Yes, and that has adopted, like the entities and the demons will adopt things that people bring to life.
And what you were saying earlier, as far as when you had that fear or that anger, you could feel something else coming around, and that's because I believe when you do have those emotions of anger and fear, there are things that do feed off of that, and so it does attract them.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times in life.
So, what I want to do real quick is rewind and go back to when we were kids and living off the bend of the highway right there. We did experience a lot in that house. And,
a lot. In Siloam Springs.
Yeah, and that was after our house in Boston where the man in the coveralls or overalls or whatever you want to call him was, this house was a total different thing. And you had told me things that I hadn't experienced, but we both experienced something quite the same. I remember you telling me about
the house in Siloam, Siloam Springs. Yes. One of the things too that, and I wonder now, like looking back, did I cause some things to happen? Because, Mom was into some things, and I feel like it was just purely just curiosity things. But I remember she had a spell book. Like she had a spell book in our bookshelf.
Oh,
and
really?
Me and our brother Greg used to get it and would read spells out of it.
Oh,
and yes. Like we were just a little, we didn't know. We were just like reading spells out of the spell book. And I wonder how many doors, because you can open a door to something via, whether it be with a seance, which I have done before, or a Ouija board, which we had a Ouija board. Mom had a Ouija board, and we used to play around with it. And this spell book. I don't
remember that. Yeah.
I
was too little.
You were too little, but me and Greg, our brother Greg, would read these spells out of the spell book, and we would just playing around with it. But we probably opened up some things that maybe wouldn't have been opened up had we not been doing this. And I feel like Mom maybe had opened some things up that she didn't really intend to open up either, just by curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, Mom would. I remember one time, I was just young and I started smoking, and Mom came and picked me up from school and said, because I would go stay the night with my friend and I would smoke, it would make me so sick. And every Monday I would call Mom and go, come get me from school because I'm sick. Okay, so Mom figured it out. And she picked me up from school one day and she took me riding around the back road. She let me drive and she's like, look, you need to not smoke. I know what you're doing. And she took me to this one place, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere. And it was where it had been a full moon the night before, and it was where a witch's coven was. And there was burnt toilet paper rolls everywhere, and there was cliffs and burnt idols, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff. And, so I wonder, what was really opened up just by curiosity? Because, when you can open up things that would not normally be opened up.
Well, I know Mom had gifts, and perhaps she knew that, and then she started messing around with other stuff. And, I've always known that I've had gifts. I've seen things people haven't seen. I've experienced things people haven't. And I've actually acquired, and I still have some Wiccan and white magic books. And I'm just afraid to read them or dabble with them because Dad always told me, well, your mom did this and that's why she died so early, which may be true. But I believe everything happens for a reason.
I do too.
But perhaps, something she had done at an early age, which we'll get to that later with some stories at Granny's house. But perhaps she had opened a door and she was too innocent to realize what she was doing until a later date, and then she had to pay that toll for what she had done.
And I think that in a way we had to pay a toll too for things that she had opened up to. I think that just, some innocent things, I mean, a toll has to be paid. Things will be passed on from generation to generation. Things will be passed on from generation to generation. But Mom had a gift from very early on. I don't know if you remember, if you were too young, but, she was writing a book of all of her paranormal experiences.
No.
When she was writing a book when she died. And it was talking about all the paranormal experiences that she experienced. Like all of her siblings were born. Mom had seven brothers and sisters, including her. So that was 8. All of our aunts and uncles, their names all start with an M. And most of them were born in the house that our grandmother had. And my mother can remember when she was next to the youngest, and she can remember when her youngest brother was born, how the clouds formed hands, like the hands of God over the house. From a very young age, Mom experienced very, 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 very intellectual and very, very intricate paranormal activity. She was really truly gifted from birth.
Yeah, and I know she was really close to Uncle Marshall, who was the youngest, and Uncle Melvin was also named Uncle Marshall as well. Not Uncle, he wasn't named Uncle, but that was our uncle. But they were both named Marshall, but the oldest Marshall went by Melvin. But Marshall was the youngest, and I know Mom loved and kind of coddled him so much. And she would dress him up, and I remember one picture that I found, he was kind of wearing this veil thing, and his face was kind of painted up like, the pictures you see of, like, the devil, from, like, old-time movies and stuff, with a nice straight, pin straight mustache and stuff like that, and kind of getting feelings off of these pictures that were taken, and I still have to share those with everybody, and with the age of technology, like, it's going to be so much easier scanning things and just sending them to everybody. And I've been doing the copyings of paintings she did, and I remember seeing carvings as well, but I didn't realize she had done those. And then Gary was telling me that she carved all these things, and
yes, I remember that. Like, I remember she was so talented.
Yeah,
she was so talented.
So in our house in I want to say Springdale, but it's not. What is it again? Siloam Springs?
Siloam Springs.
What was your first paranormal experience there? You had told me a few things.
Well, I used to hear, okay, so one of the very first things that I remember is, you got to remember, this was probably in the late 70s, early 80s, and Mom would, a lot of times, she had 5 kids, and she worked, and whenever, the only really free time that she ever had was when we were asleep. Mm-hmm. So she would always go riding around with Aunt Dee Dee, and go riding back roads and smoking and just, enjoying a little bit of life. Of course, at this time, you never even locked your windows and doors. There was really not a fear of anything bad happening. But my first memories were waking up in the middle of the night, and I just knew to my core that Mom was not there and that she was gone. I could feel it in my soul that she was not there. But when I would wake up, so my bedroom was there. There was the door to the right of the far wall, and there was a hallway, and I would see Mom standing, and this is crazy, but she was wearing what she was buried in. Now she didn't die for years and years after this, but it was a very light purple lilac flowing gown, and she would be standing there, and I knew it wasn't her because I could see through her. It was almost like it was a hologram of her, like she left a piece of her there, like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to go riding around, or I'm going to go do this. But she left a piece of her there to watch out for us and protect us. So I would wake up, and it happened way more than just one time. Like, I would just wake up kind of sleepily, and I would have that feeling, well, she's not here. I would look in the hallway. Okay, she's here. even though I knew it was just a piece of her, because I could see right through her. It was just a hologram of her, like a piece of her. Like, I'm going to take this little piece of me, I'm going to leave it to watch over my children, and I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. And so that was my very first experience. And then after, we had went, and I don't know if maybe she was like kind of like experimenting a little bit with witchcraft, white witchcraft, or whatever. But after she took me like to where they had the witch's coven, and there was nobody there. It was like the night after. But like after that, and after reading the spells, then some really scary things started happening. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear like a chopping sound and just like, and I would be so scared, but I would want to go check it out. And I would go. I remember one time leaving my room and walking down that long hallway, and of course our brother's room was to the right, and in the kitchen there was like an island, kind of maybe a part of a cabinet, and I would see a man there chopping stuff, like chopping bloody meat, and I would just slowly back up and slowly go back to my room and just cover my face up, and that's when I started seeing the guardian. And the guardian, of course, at the time, I didn't really realize she was a guardian. Mm-hmm. She scared the crap out of me. She really scared the crap out of me at first.
I think it's because she's so serious.
So serious. Like, she is so serious. She would just be wearing, okay, so I woke up one night because I was cold. And she was like, her face was veiled, all in black. And she had this black, flowy gown. And I woke up and she was at the end of my bed, and I just was froze in fear because she looks really freaking scary. And she looked at me and she pointed with her finger and she said, "Close the window," because there was a window right behind my bed. I couldn't move. I was too scared. And she said, "Close the window." And I still couldn't move. And she said, "Close the window." And I was like, oh my God. I turned around and I closed the window. I have chills everywhere. And I turned back around and she was gone. And the next morning I got up and I went to Greg, and I was like, Greg, and I told Greg, I recanted the story exactly how it happened. And I was like, oh my God, come here. I said, she was standing right here, and we looked down, and we had hardwood floors, and we looked down, and there was perfect burned feet imprints in the floor exactly where she was standing. It was proof to me. She was there. Her feet, it was perfectly burned in, both feet, burned into the wood floor.
Well, I think it's because, that message within her that she was trying to get to you, and you were kind of arguing with her, like it kind of flared up and put that fire or energy or whatever through her being and put it through her shoes. And I do remember seeing those shoe prints, and I'm going to try to Google it. I've been sharing pictures in SOR Space Travelers for people to kind of get a visual of what we've seen. So I want to find that, but I do remember seeing those, and I thought it was the night that it happened. You told Mom, and she's like, well, let's just keep this locked and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And then the next day we went out and investigated, and right under your windowsill there were footprints in the mud of a large male shoe, and somebody had come off the highway and tried to get into your bedroom. Like, God forbid they had gotten in there and they had done whatever they were going to do to you or to us. Oh my
God. I forgot about that until just now. Yes, I remember that now. Oh my gosh, she was protecting me. Oh, wow.
Well, I had seen her as well, and it was about a week before Mom passed. And, I've always had issues getting to sleep. I don't know if you've had the same thing. Like, I've always been a night owl, and always my mind is racing before I go to bed, and I'm always just laying there and everybody else is asleep and I'm so lonely. But as I've aged, I kind of appreciate that time. But as a kid, I was just like, I wish somebody else was awake with me right now. But I could hear the coming down the hallway, and we had that clock in the hallway that was like a flowing river. It was one of those old beer clocks with the cool lights, and you can watch the water flowing. But I couldn't see it from the bedroom, and it was the one on the right you were talking about. Our brothers stayed in. It was me and probably John and Greg and Gary all in the same bed, and probably you down the hallway, or I don't know how it was working. I remember your room used to be in there too. I think we switched a few times, but
We did switch a few times.
I'm thinking, well, maybe I blinked and Mom went across the doorway and I couldn't see her, and maybe that's her coming back down the hall. So I'm waiting for it to get closer and closer, waiting to hear her cough or, make some sort of noise. But all I'm hearing is these footsteps. And so I call out and I'm like, Mom? No response. Mom? Still nothing. She would answer if it was her. And then the last time I'm like, Mom, and I didn't get the whole mom out. And then all of a sudden, what we refer to as the guardian, she appeared in the doorway and stopped, which really freaked me out. Like, at that point, I pulled the covers up over my nose and stuff. Like, my eyes are the only things popped out, and so I can see what's going on. And she slowly turned her head and looked at me, which I could not see her face because she was wearing a veil. And then after probably 10 seconds, she slowly turned her head again and continued to walk down the hallway. And then you could hear her open Mom's door, and she'd walk in there, and then she closed it behind her. And then a week later, Mom had passed, but I remember her waking up with nightmares, screaming like there's hooded men around my bed and different things like that, that really freaked her out. Like, she knew something was coming for her, and she's trying not to let it be known, but at the same time, because she doesn't want to freak us out as kids, but at the same time, like, some things you just can't contain.
And do you remember when she was kidnapped? Do you remember when she was kidnapped?
Yeah, I used to have the article. I might still have it somewhere, but I don't think so. I think I lost it in the foreclosure of our house, but it told all about it because she was such an open person to everyone, and she was, always trying to help people to a fault.
Yes, and I'm the same way. Like, I have to really guard myself now because I'm really the same way. So I've really had to be really good and set some boundaries. Like, I've really learned boundaries in my adult years, that because I never had any before, kind of like Mom, like, to a fault. I really wanted to help people and really wanted to do good by people. And but yeah, she was, and I wonder, and I feel like that person that kidnapped her had a force behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
evil.
And yes, an evil force behind them. Because even in the courtroom, when Mom went and testified in the courtroom, the guy in the courtroom in front of the judge and everybody looked at her and pointed at her and said, did this with his finger across his throat, saying, "You will die."
Ugh.
And that was not very long before she died. So she knew. I mean, she knew so much that she had sent the letter to her dad that said everything that she wanted to do when she died.
Well, she sent that from Colorado. She went out for a conference in Denver. They went to Mount Evans and got a bunch of pictures up there, which I tried to go there, but Vern was afraid of heights. Like, we're not climbing this mountain, we're driving, but he didn't want to go past a certain point, and I really... that really made me angry. I was like, I really want to summit this mountain. And it's really, it's not a bad road. We've been over worse going to Ouray or whatever. But they had gone to Denver, Mount Evans, and then they made their way down to Cortez, which is where Aunt Sandy and Uncle Bill moved us from Washington State. And she and Dad had stopped in Pagosa, and I recognized the room of the picture that Dad had taken of her in front of this mirror, and I won't go into much detail about that because she was in a certain state that people shouldn't know about. But then they went down to Cortez, and they went to Mesa Verde, and she went down into one of these kivas. And Dad said when she came back up, she was as white as a sheet. And he's like, "What's wrong? What's happening? What happened? Are you okay?" And she's like, I went down and there was 3 shaman and they were doing some sort of spell or whatnot, and she had interrupted it, and they looked at her so angrily and like had cast some sort of curse upon her or whatever. And he said after that, she felt like every car on the road was after her. So she wrote Grandpa from one of the hotels and sent it to him. And she also wrote me a postcard because she's like, so when I go to Colorado, what would you like me to get you? And I said, I would like a rainbow. And so she got a postcard of a rainbow and she sent it to me, which was so awesome. Like, I still have it today. But I know she sent that letter to Grandpa from Colorado because it would take them at least 2, maybe 3 days, depending on how long they stopped in places, to get back. And, yeah, once she got back, we were all in the car, and I know Gary remembers, but do you remember the argument that they had between themselves? Like, we're in the car, but the window's cracked, and we could hear them bickering, and he's going on about how she shouldn't write things like this, and, you know, what's wrong with her. And she's like, no, Dad, for real, like, this is really happening. You gotta believe me. Can you please help me plan my funeral because I want it a certain way?
Yes, I do. I remember that so vividly. Like, I remember that like it was yesterday. And, yeah, and it was a scary thing, but it was a scary thing, but I wasn't scared. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, it was something so scary, but I wasn't super scared about it. I don't know. It was crazy.
Well, it's kind of like we had this internal knowledge or whatever, like, this is supposed to happen. But I remember years after her passing, like, I would wish upon a star every night, and I would be like, I wish it was my dad instead of my mom, because I just felt like she did take better care of us than Dad did, because he had his issues. But then after she died, like, his issues got worse, and that's why he ended up leaving us with Grandma and Grandpa. And you guys were kind of in and out of that picture, and we had some paranormal experiences there as well. But trying to keep on point with our house. So we experienced the Guardian. You experienced the Chopper. Do you remember the Fireball?
I don't remember the Fireball as well as you remember the Fireball. Okay. Like, I don't really remember the Fireball.
So, you know, we're all doing our everyday stuff, and the storm comes in. And then the power gets knocked out, probably from lightning. And so we all gather in the living room, and we're sitting around kind of in a circle, and I'm sitting on Mom's lap. And we're talking and talking and talking, and then all of a sudden Mom is like, shh. And I'm like, what? What's happening? What's going on? You know, being a questionable little toddler thing. And she's like, be quiet. And she points up to where the power line was. Do you remember where that power line was, like up on the hill across from our house?
Yes, I do. Okay.
So she points, and there's this fireball right in the middle of the T of the power line. And then all of a sudden, without any warning, it just shoots towards our house, and it goes right on the porch, which is a concrete porch, and you can hear the slap of it. And then all of a sudden, it came up in the middle of the living room floor where we're all sitting in a circle.
Oh my gosh, I remember that now. Like, you're bringing that memory alive. Like, some things I think I had forgotten just from years of just living life. You know, you tend to like to forget some things, but yes, I do remember that now.
But then it came up through the floor, and I'm still trying to speak, and Mom's got her hand over my mouth, and then all of a sudden when I see it, like, I'm still, like, I can't say anything because I'm just in shock, like, what the F is this? And then I think it was Gary went to the dryer to get the clothes out so they wouldn't wrinkle, and he stepped out of the laundry room, and he starts to come down the hallway, and then all of a sudden the fireball moves to where the hallway is in the dining room, aka kitchen. It's kind of like combined. And then I think it's attracted to noise or something, but it just shot down the hallway towards him, and he just kind of dropped the basket and collapsed on the floor, and then it shot out the back wall and was gone. Like, we didn't see it again. And some people refer to it as St. Elmo's fire, or some sort of electrical charge from the storm plus the power lines or whatever. But it was so crazy, and it was intelligent. I know it was. Like, you know, if it were some sort of, you know, freak of nature that happened because of the electricity in the atmosphere from, the lightning and the power lines. It would have hit the porch and been gone, but it hit the porch, then it came through the floor and then shot down the hallway. Like it was intelligent.
It was paranormal. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was crazy.
It was absolutely paranormal.
So do you remember that now?
Yes, I do. I do remember that now. And also, do you remember back when we were young, like when Mom was alive, when we would go to our Grandma and Grandpa Evans's, and we would be up there in the middle of nowhere, and there was so much that went on that hill. Like, and I used to be so scared to go there. Like, we would always go there for the summers, and stay, and it would terrify me. Like, it would terrify me. I would see the red glowing eyes in the window, and I would just all the time see and feel things there. Like, it terrified me to be there. So, I think about Mom being a young girl, being born there, being raised there, and you have that level of paranormal activity going on. And and like Mom would tell stories about when she was young, how she would Grandma had 8 kids. She had 6 girls and 2 boys, and how like they would have like probably what would be a full-size bed now, and they would have 3 girls up top and 3 girls on bottom sleeping. And how Mom would say she would wake up and she would see the most handsome, beautiful man at the foot of her bed. And she said he was the most handsome man she had ever seen, and she wasn't really afraid, but that he had hoof feet, and that's what made her afraid. Like, but his beauty was just phenomenal. His beauty was phenomenal.
At this point, we have to go to our first break. You guys don't go anywhere. We will be right back after these messages.
Thank you.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
There's news, and there's the encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here comes the second hour of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. And you can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight and listening to our crazy, scary ghost stories. True, scary, crazy ghost stories. Tonight we have my big sister, Kathy Weaver. I always call it Weaver because that's how it's spelled, W-E-W-E-R, but you know, hillbillies pronounce it differently, Weaver. Welcome back, Kathy.
The Germans lead you to believe that it's pronounced Weaver.
Right?
Hillbillies say Weaver.
Okay, so that's me. That's the hillbilly. I got it.
I'm a hillbilly too, baby.
I'm a hillbetty. You want to fight about it?
You're not my daddy. I do what I want.
Hello, daddy, brother, uncle. How's it going today? You having a good day today? I sure miss seeing you around a lot.
Oh, there's so many places I could go with that. Right.
Well, we love to have fun here and to laugh because laughter is the best medicine. So I love to promote that on this channel. But being that we are in October and we are sharing ghost stories, I want to let you all know you are welcome to chime in. Woo! Chime in anytime. You can call us at 1-970-335-9596. That's 1-970-335-9596. If you have any stories, ghost stories, paranormal stories, UFO, alien, strange and beyond, we welcome you.
Yes, I would love to hear some.
Indeed. I'm so excited. I'm waiting for, so many people to call in. We got people from Mississippi, the UK, Australia, Pennsylvania, Canada, Italy, Spain, all over the world. I would love to hear some encounters.
Yes.
But we left off on Mom's experience with the big D, the devil. So can you start again with that story, what she'd experienced?
I know when she was writing her book, I was a little bit older than you, and she was writing her book and she was telling her life story is what she was doing. And she really wanted to make it a movie. And I remember, of course, how we are as kids, we have a gazillion questions. Mom, this, what's this? Tell me about this. And, she would tell me stories about, because I told her when it kind of, the window got opened up and I told her about seeing the eyes, the flame red eyes outside the window and feeling this and fearing this. And Mom would tell me stories about when she was little and how she would wake up and at the foot of her bed would be the most handsome man in the most perfectly tailored black suit. And she said that she would not have been afraid at all, but he had hoofed feet. And that's what scared her. And how she spent her whole life seeing this man. And I really feel like the devil wanted her because he wanted her gifts. I feel in my heart that he wanted her gifts. He wanted her children because he knew the power of the gifts. And I remember after Mom had died, I kept seeing the premonitions of this man. And when we were in our car wreck, the wreck that we got onto that ultimately ended my mom's life was a complete horseshoe shaped curve. It was a 20-mile-an-hour horseshoe-shaped curve. It was just a couple miles from our house. And inside of that horseshoe, one of my premonitions that I seen, I was outside of the horseshoe. And inside of the horseshoe, I seen the most long, solid black limousine. And that man was standing there with the door open, telling me to come on in. Come on in.
Oh, when you got in the accident?
It was after the accident. It was after after Mom died. I kept seeing the premonition of him, and I kept seeing him on inside that U inside the like the field there, and with the most long black limousine, and with the door open, telling me to come on in. And it was after that we had got separated because my daddy, your daddy, he was my daddy. He was the daddy that raised me. And I remember when Mom had picked me up that day to tell me to quit smoking, and I don't know why, but something came over me, and I asked her. I was like, Mom, what would happen if anything ever happened to you? Where would I live? And she told me. She said you would get to choose where you live, and I chose Daddy. I chose our daddy. Not my biological dad. He was had been in the Army all his life, and he didn't raise me. And
he was a hard ass.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a hard ass, but he's a good man. He's a good man. He was a hard ass. Totally different than totally different than what I was used to, So when Mom died, of course, I automatically thought I was going to get to stay with my daddy, So, but it didn't work out that way. And of course, my biological dad came in, and we went to Germany, and I was tormented by this demon. Like I had night terrors. Every night I was tormented by this demon. And I remember one night, because we had, after Mom had died and we had the funeral and everything. And I would have to say that was probably the most shattered, the only word that I can say that even describes the feeling of our mom dying was just shattered. Yeah. I was shattered.
The world was ripped out from underneath us. Like, it was just crazy.
I hated everybody. And I remember Mom was in the hospital in a coma, and and I don't know what it is with numbers, but I know that there is something with numbers. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was born March 12th. She died September 12th. Or the wreck happened September 12th, one of the two. She was in a coma for 12 days. And they wouldn't let none of us kids go in to see Mom. But Dad had said he felt like if anyone could bring Mom out of her coma, it was me. So they took this 12-year-old, scared to death little girl into Mom's room. And I remember Tess being so scared. And of course, I'll regret this for the rest of my life. Like, she had one hand fingernail polished. The other hand, they took off the fingernail polish because of her injury, and her head was all bandaged up.
Well, they had to check the blood flow and see if her fingernails were blue. And so they probably took her fingernail polish off to check that.
But I was so scared to hold her hand. I wanted to hold her hand so bad. And I was so scared that I would hold her hand and it would be cold. So out of fear, I let the fear rule me, and I didn't hold her hand. I was just petrified, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So after her funeral and after everything, and I ended up going to Germany with my dad, and you know, I hated everybody. You know, I hated everybody.
Yeah.
And because I was just had so much pain going on, and I remember, and my dad at the time went to church, and he went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And I remember sitting in church and just, oh gosh, I just hated it. And I would just think of the devil and I was in just that pure raw hate. And I started being tormented by a demon, and this demon tormented me for probably 4 years. And one of the first encounters I had was I was in bed, and I had this demon jump on me. Like, I was sound asleep, and this demon jumped on me, and I couldn't move, and it was holding me down, and it was trying to have sex with me. And I just was I was fighting it, and I finally got one little hand loose, and I grabbed his leg. And I remember when I grabbed his leg, because he was straddled me, when I grabbed his leg, it was warm and it was scaly, and I just dug my fingernail in between one of the scales. And when I did, it just went like a lightning bolt straight into the wall right in front of my bed. And he was gone. And when I got up the next morning, there was a burnt hole in the wall and a crack that went all the way down the sheetrock, all the way to the floor. And, you know, sheetrock doesn't burn, but this crack was burnt all the way down. And that was my very first encounter with this demon. And this demon tormented me for years. You know, I had a very turbulent time after that. Like, I ended up coming back from Georgia, and I ended up living with my grandpa, and some things happened there that should have never happened. And I ended up running away.
Was that your grandpa on Carl's side?
Yes, my grandpa on Carl's side, and he took advantage of the situation, took advantage of my vulnerability, and I ended up running away with a guy I was 14 and he was like 32, and we ran away to California. And I would completely every time I fell asleep, I would be in this total paralysis. I could not move. And I would totally be out of my body. I knew everything that was going on in the room. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I was terrified of this presence that was just suffocating me and paralyzing me. And the only thing I could do was whimper. And I remember and it would happen every time I fell asleep, every time I dozed off, every time it happened. And I would tell people, if you hear me whimpering, wake me up, because I'm trying to wake up and I can't. And this went on for years, for a couple years after that, 4 years altogether. And I remember I just started fighting it with God. I started fighting it with God. I started with the Lord's Prayer, and gosh, that would make this demon mad. And he would torment me and hold me down, and I would see fire, and I would see flames, and I would see all this stuff. He wanted me. Like, I remember telling our Aunt Janie that I really think that I don't really feel like in my heart that my mom promised us, but I feel like the devil thought that we were his. Like,
I do think that he wanted to lay claim to us, because I've had experiences as well. And I've had people tell me the devil doesn't do his own work. And I tell them, when he's looking for a bride, he does his own work. It's not like trying to collect souls and all this other stuff. He's trying to claim a bride. He's going to put his own presence out there and let himself be known and show his, like you said, he was the most beautiful angel. He was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. And when you were talking about Mom, my dad, he also told me a story after I told him a story of what I had experienced. And that's after we all got together after being separated. And we were all telling our stories. Huh?
I love Dad. And I love the fact that Dad, like, we could always be 100% honest with him about everything. And he never judged us. And he never looked down upon us. Like, we could tell him anything. Like, I never hid nothing from him. You know, I never did. And we could talk to him openly about, and I think that a lot of that is what helped me get through that time, is to be able to have someone to go to that didn't be like, oh, well, girl, you just tripping, you know, or feeling sorry for you. You know what I mean?
That's just teenage angst. You're all right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dad was just really amazing through all that, you know.
He was my best friend, and I remember after he passed, I would still call him, because I would call him every day and we would talk, and I'd dial his number not even thinking about it, and it would ring and ring and ring, and then before the voicemail would even pick up, I'd be like, he's gone. He's not here anymore. Yeah. And,
you know, I loved being able to talk to him about anything. I loved it. And I always hated it that, you know, when we lost Dad, that, you know, it made me sad that, you know, that I had two dads and you didn't, you know what I mean? That always really made me sad. But like, he'll always be my dad, you know, he'll always, you know, I was like, I couldn't have been any more his than you are his, you know, he just loved, we were just so close, you know?
Yeah. And I know, Gary, he feels bad today because he had this misunderstanding and he remembers Mom and Dad fighting. And then when I told him what had happened to me, what our cousin Zane had done to me and Mom.
What did cousin Zane do to you? I missed that.
Well,
okay, you might have to tell me about that later.
Well, he had molested me and Mom defended him and was like, I can't believe it. And you told me, no, that's not what she was trying to say. She was trying to say she couldn't believe this happened. But talking to my siblings and their experiences, she didn't. She did not. She might have believed me, but she was trying to write it off because that was her family. Same thing happened to one of our siblings, and everything was torn apart in the room of this sibling, and except for her pot plant that was in the window. That's the only thing that was unscathed. And when this sibling went to our mother, she told him it was just your imagination. So she did not protect us from this, and this stuff was able to happen to us due to the party life and whatnot. But going back to where we all came back together and were telling our stories, Dad took it really hard, our dad JT, and hey Caden, good to see you. Oh man, where is it going? Okay, so I told him the story that I had, and it goes a little something like this. Okay, so I'm in Mom's old bedroom. That's where I used to sleep, and John would sleep in the back bedroom.
In Silent Spring?
No, in Pettigrew, at Grandma's house.
Okay.
That's after Dad had his downfall. He couldn't really take care of us, so he sent us to Grandma and Grandpa's for a vacation and never sent for us again, because he knew...
I know, I remember.
Yeah, he knew that he was not in the state of mind to take care of kids. We were alone all the time. In Miami, Florida, of all places. We're from Arkansas. Right. We're innocent. We don't even know about all this hoopla. We could have got kidnapped. And that's where the Unsolved Mysteries kid was kidnapped. I was just like, holy shnikes. Like, we could have died, but we weren't meant to. Anyways, staying at Grandma's house, I stayed in Mom's room. John stayed in the back bedroom. And, you know, I've said before, I always had sleeping issues. So I'm laying in bed, trying to get to sleep, thinking about Elvis Presley or Mom or whatever's running through my mind at the moment. And then all of a sudden I see this light flickering through my window on the wall. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Because, you know, out this window is the chicken yard, right?
Yes.
And so I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, is Grandpa burning trash? Or, like, you know, this has never happened before. So I creep down the side of the wall slowly and cautiously. I peek my left eye out the window around the window frame, and I see these little goblin critters, and I used to refer to them as cobalt in about 99 because the person I talked to, her cousin went through the same thing and called them cobalts. But looking on the internet, they're more like Kentucky goblins. So I see these things, and they're dancing around the fire, and they're chanting, and you can't understand what they're saying because it's like goblinish, like, speak. I don't understand goblin. I'm not meant to. And dancing around this fire, and some have drums, and they're beating on it, and some have spears, some have like different weapons, and they're just dancing around this fire, and you can see the fire glowing off their scales. And then they stop and look at my window, and all of a sudden I duck back and I hide under my covers with my eyes peering out again because, blankets or covers are like a shield against such things. And I lay there as if I'm sleeping. My eyes are closed. I can see the light through my eyelids, and then it goes away. And you can hear them going down the side of the house. I think they went to John's room, our little brother, because after that, every night, John would wake up screaming bloody murder. He'd run through the entire house. He'd go running into the living room, run back out past my bedroom, past the stove room, into the kitchen, turn back around and run, and then he'd always trip over that little tiny step in Grandma's kitchen going into the wood stove room. And that happened every night until one night Grandma and Grandpa got up and they caught him, one by each arm, and they looked as if they were looking at something, and I'm looking and I don't see anything, which is weird because generally I do.
Right.
But
I remember that.
He was screaming, scrambling, kicking his feet, trying to get away, and then all of a sudden he just collapses in their arms. And then Grandma carries him back to bed, tucks him in, and after that there's no more running through the house, screaming bloody murder, anything. But after that, he was always in trouble. After that night, that same night when I saw these things going backwards and reverse again, rewind, that night I had the weirdest dream, and I'm in my bed in Mom's room, and there's a hole in the floor between my bed and the dresser where the mirror was, and it's fire, brimstone, you can smell it, and it's not pleasant, and my bed is tipping upwards, up, to where it's going to make me slide into the hole. And the frame on this bed is about 4 inches lower than the mattress, so I'm sticking my thumbs down into the end piece of the bed and trying to keep myself from falling in, and the blankets and covers and everything are moving, and everything's trying to push me in the hole, and then all of a sudden I wake up. I'm at the end of my bed, which has never happened, and I'm laying there thinking about what an effed up dream it is. What the hell just happened? What's going on, That was the weirdest dream I'd ever had. And I'd had the reoccurring dreams of falling off a skyscraper and almost dying, right before I hit the crack in the sidewalk. But this dream was just so real, and so like something was trying to get me, and then all of a sudden I smell smoke. And it's not the same smoke that I smelled when I was smelling the fire and brimstone. It's smoke of a cigar or a pipe, pipe smoke, like cherry smoke or whatever. And I'm thinking, that's not Grandma or Grandpa. And I have a can here of that velvet tobacco that Grandpa used to smoke in my studio for memory's sake. But it wasn't their tobacco. It wasn't them. And then I realized somebody's standing in my doorway. So I slowly turn my head and look, and there's this figure standing in my doorway. And all of a sudden, he lifts a cigar up to his mouth and takes a drag off of it. And when the ember glows, you could see his face. And, like they say in the Bible and elsewhere, he was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. And I knew immediately who it was. I knew it was the devil. And I'm only like 6 or 7 years old at this point. And Dad used to tell me, because I would have night terrors all the time, just say, God stands before me, Satan fall behind. I didn't even say it out loud. I said it in my head, and just like that, I was knocked out. And I didn't have to deal with it. But then when I told Dad that story, he's like, oh my God, your mom told me a similar story, but he was right next to her bed. And they actually carried on a lengthy conversation. I don't remember what the intros of that were, but I think that's where she made her mistake, was conversing with him, because the more she did, the more he would put her like under his spell, and the more he would get her soul and lean.
Yes. Yes. He would. He absolutely would. And the more he was attracted to her. Like, he was so attracted to her. It was, he wanted her, and I really believe that he wanted her gifts. He wanted her gifts.
Our gifts, because I think, it started with her,
yes.
But then he's come to you, and he's also come to me, and I was only like 6, almost 7 years old at this point when this happened, and luckily I haven't had to deal with him anymore in person. I've had to deal with many different trials and tribulations through life. But I do know that was there, and I know I was freaking out for so long, especially once I was approaching my 33rd birthday. I just knew I was going to be in a car accident. I was going to be killed. Like, my soul was going to be claimed, and, all this shenanigans was going to happen, and it was just scary for me. But once I passed that, time in my life, I felt this sense of ease, and I can relax and not worry about that anymore because I knew it was over. But is it really?
I think it is. I really feel like it is, because I really felt that way too. And it was 32. She was 32 when she died, because she was born in 52 and she died in 84. So she was 32. But I really, 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 really felt like I would not make it past then either. I just knew that I was going to die at the same age as Mom.
Yeah.
But I really feel like, Tess, that I really feel like I'm protected now. I really feel like that I'm safe and I'm protected. And, our brother Gary, our oldest brother Gary, because I believe that everybody is born with gifts. And some people's gifts are stronger than other people's gifts. But if you don't work them gifts, and if you don't hone them gifts, you will lose them. And a lot of people, because of society, because of whatever, they don't, and some people don't have a very strong gift, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
you can build it.
But you can build it. But if you don't work it, you'll lose it. And I think that's one thing with our brother Gary. He was the oldest. He was angry at everything, just like we were, because we lost our mom, and he remembered things differently, because he just remembered things differently. And I really feel like that. And I don't think that he lost the gift. I think it was put to sleep, because if you'll remember, just a few years ago, that gift was coming back, and it was coming back full force, and it was scaring the hell out of him.
Do you remember all the artwork that he would do on the wall of his bedroom?
Yes.
Like, he was the most amazing artist out of all of us. Like, my stuff was put into art museums when I was 6 years old. But he just had this freaking talent. Like, I remember looking at this artwork, and it was like a woman with like Xena armor on before Xena even existed, and she's like slaying this dragon, and it was all in pencil, and I'm sure it got painted over.
The whole wall, was the whole.
It was so
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yes, it was so beautiful. And do you remember the movie that we were making, that Mom made?
You've told me about it. But
you were in it.
Before you
were
go
just
there,
so little.
Yeah, before you go there, I just want to say, I know Gary has gifts. I just think that he is at the point where he's trying to, or has been at the point where he's trying to shut that out, because that's so much of Mom, and it's so painful, and he was so close to her. Like, they really did have a close and tight-knit relationship, and it really hurts him. Like, we talk about her a lot, and he was hurt by her, but at the same time, he's realizing things, and talking to me or talking to you or whatever. Like, I've made him remember things just like I have made you remember tonight. And it's bringing things back, and I know he has that gift. It's just a matter of opening that window or that door and letting that come through. It's somewhat painful, because that is a part of Mom, and that's what has torn us apart for so many years. And we do all have certain things wrong with us. I will be the first to admit it, because of things we've gone through because of Mom and after Mom. And throughout with this demonic thing trying to get us, and it still does persist today. It's more off and on than constant like it used to be, but I still know it's there. It's still there.
It manifested itself differently as I got older. You know what I mean? As I got older, it manifested itself differently, and which led me into really bad bouts of addiction, and it really took me down a road led me in a road. Maybe I was doing the addiction to cover up the pain or to cover up what was going on.
Self-medicating.
Self-medicating. So, but I feel like that, you know, like it manifested itself differently. Like it just had a different, just different demons, you know, same core, different, just a different direction that it, you know, that it came at me at. So, you know, that kept me in bondage, and I'm free from that bondage right now. So thank you.
Well, amen, sister. High five. But I do feel it, but I think that he's eased up off of it because we haven't seen him for a very long time. Like, once he knew where we stood in that we were educated in what was going on, we knew what to do to protect ourselves, he left the situation, and then he did send his minions and demons and whatever to come after us. But after being in Siloam Springs, I experienced that stuff in Pettigrew. You experienced that stuff in Germany and back on the homeland. Do you remember visiting at Dad's house and we had experienced some things there?
Yes, on Ralston Street in Fayetteville.
Yes.
I sure do. Yes. Actually, I sure do. And yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went on there too.
Well, I remember, you know, Mom was a master at doing Halloween costumes. Like, you won first place, I don't know how many times, because of Mom's Halloween costumes that she would provide, like she would create.
Yes, very creative, very, very creative.
But
very creative. The flapper one time. The flapper girl, remember?
Oh, yeah. She was awesome. I miss her. I do. But I remember at Ralston Street, we finally got together, and it seemed like, you know, when you guys weren't there and it was just me and John, it was pretty calm. But when we were combined, like, our energies were clashing or whatever, like, things were just pinging off the charts. And I remember your friends would come over and you guys would smoke or drink or whatever you do, and going out on the porch, and I don't know if we were playing Michael Jackson or some other music that was going on at that time when we were looking out at the trees, and I remember seeing shadow figures in the trees. Do you remember that?
Yeah, shadow people. I sure do.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Sure
At first, I couldn't see them, and then I was like, what is that? And then I was like so freaked out. I was like, I'm so scared. And you hold me.
Yes, I sure do remember that. And I seen them like years later too, like shadow people and even shadow dogs. I even seen shadow dogs like years later. But and do you remember years later? Okay, so after I went to California and I went through that demon that was really tormenting me, and I broke free from that, and I got married for the second time, and I moved up on Wildcat Mountain Road.
Did you marry that first Tracy? Because you're saying you got married the second time. Like, I only remember Tracy, like Thea's dad. Who are the other two?
The other two? No, I only had two. Gosh, don't give me no more.
I thought you said three.
No. Lord, don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I am not going.
God bless me. Baby Jesus. Come on.
No, I only had two, and that's all I ever want. No, but I was married to Tracy for 7 years, and then I married Richard, and we moved up on Wildcat Mountain Road. And it was so powerful up there and so strong up there that even if you weren't gifted, even if you did not have the gift to see things or to see spirits or to experience spirits, if you stayed there for more than a day or two, even without a gift, you've seen it. That's how strong it was up there. And so I tried to find out the history of it. Why is it so strong here? Like, I would hear a group of children laughing, like, often. I would hear like an elder talking to people, like directing people, like telling stories, and I mean, there was just so much up there. And the pranksters, Oh my gosh, the pranksters.
The takers.
The takers, yes, the takers. And the takers, oh my gosh, the takers. And it took me a long time to figure out what the hell was going on with the takers, because I would come home, lay my keys down, turn around, pick up my soda, turn back around, and my keys would be gone. And I mean, and I really thought for a little tiny bit of a time there that I was going crazy, because things would disappear all the time.
I remember lighters, keys, earrings, necklaces, whatever. And we learned to say, could you please bring that back? Because, well, I did. Can you please put my keys back where they were? Because I have to go to work at the Model Cafe, and I can't be late because Cheryl's going to chew my ass. Can you please put those keys back, because I have to go? And I'd go into the bedroom and grab something. I'd come back out, and they were where I put them.
Yeah, exactly. They would take them. They would prank you all the time. And it wasn't until me and you, because we would stay up late and we would play Boggle. Remember, like, we would like line the Boggle with like shelf lining, so when you shook it, it wouldn't be loud because
it wouldn't wake up Richard.
Yeah, we would wake up Richard. So, and it was you that actually had seen it. Like, I never seen them. I only experienced their wrath. But you seen them. You're like, they're these little green guys. Do you see them?
Oh,
like,
they weren't green. Okay, so
were they not green?
No, the Cobalt, aka like gremlin-looking guys, Kentucky Goblins, whatever you want to call them. Kentucky Goblins is the closest that I can say they looked, and I'm going to share that on SOR Space Travelers. But these guys looked like freaking tiny little humans. They were like 16 to 18 inches tall, and it was you know that shelf across from where your sink was? There was that little bookshelf, and then up above was like a little pantry thing where you'd put like some teacups or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm laying in the bed in Thea's room, and I hear this noise, and I got excited because I'm like, Kathy's going to come back out. We're going to play Boggle. I'm not going to be alone, and you don't come out. And so I was like, what's going on? And then I see these two little guys, and they have longish hair, like, you know, they don't get regular haircuts. And they're wearing like coveralls, and you know, where your socks go missing, or your underwear, or you know, whatever, a pair of shorts, like things go missing, and you can't find them ever, no matter where you look. They're gone. That's how they make their little clothes. But they're running across this little countertop across from the sink, and one sits on the edge closest to me and starts like just kicking his feet back and forth, and you can hear him chattering back and forth, and the one behind him is running back and forth doing something I can't tell because he's behind the other. And then all of a sudden the other one tries to push the one sitting there off the shelf, and then he catches himself and pulls himself back up. And as he's doing that, I'm thinking, okay, they're distracted. I'm going to go out and bust them right now. And as soon as I sat up, like my view of them was gone because of the doorway that was there and then the wall. So I sat up and stood up and went around, and they were gone. And I looked in the laundry room. I looked everywhere. I could not find them. But I didn't feel like any evil or harm or ill will from them. It was pretty cool, pretty interesting. I'd actually got to see the takers.
Yes, and you did see them. And like I remember thinking like, yes, I just remember that. Like, it was so crazy. I remember saying like, because we had so many mismatched socks. Like you would put clothes in the dryer, and or washer and dryer, and you'd pull them out, and you'd have like 4 pairs of socks who didn't have a match, that had a match when you put them in there. And I remember I used to joke at first, like, well, there must be a high divorce rate among socks, because like one leaves the other all the time. Like I had a whole basket of socks that completely disappeared. It was the takers.
It was. And they were so cute. They were just like little tiny humans.
But they were cool though, like, because you could tell them, hey, put it back at the end, you know, toward the end when you started figuring out what was going on. You could be like, put it back. I
need this.
I go to work. Yeah. And they
could you please put it back? I need it. And you know, you go to the other room, you come back, and it's there. That was cool. I remember though, I always felt like there was something in the woods behind that house on Wildcat. Did you ever get that feeling like something was watching you from there?
Do you know what it was?
What was it?
I told you that I did research on the place because I wanted to figure out what was going on, because like when you came to stay, or if somebody came, like when the cousins came to stay, and if they stayed more than 2 or 3 days, they would start seeing stuff and hearing stuff. And So I did some research on it, and there was an ancient Indian burial ground there. That was an ancient Indian burial ground, and you could look out among the field, and you could see. Richard pointed it out to me one day. You could see the Indian burial mounds.
Wow.
You could look out and you could see mound. So the houses were literally built on top of the ancient Indian burial ground. So I really felt like that was the source of a lot of the paranormal stuff that happened there.
Well, now that you mentioned that, like, I would try to go into the woods, but I can only go in like 5 feet into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I could not go any further than that. But I remember, walking to my car. I had it parked under these really tall pine trees to protect Mom's paintings and my lingerie or lingerie and all these other things that I had in my car because I flew back to Colorado. But I remember, walking over those mounds, up and down. That Now that you mention it, now I realize what that was. That is so crazy. So is that Cherokee or is that something else?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is, but okay, I don't know if you know this, but when our grandma Evans was getting older and she was getting close to the end of her life, she used to tell me stories about her life, and I really wish that I had been more like older or maybe more mindful of our history, and I wish I would have wrote them down because we're really pale-faced Indian, like okay, so like I'm blue-eyed and I was blonde-haired. I was tow-headed when I was little. I was totally white-headed when I was little.
I was a towhead. I had blonde hair when I was born, and then my body rejected it, and my hair fell out, and then it grew back dark. I'm so grateful. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so my hair, was white, completely white,
like gold, like gold colored, light gold, platinum gold.
Yes, and then it just got darker as I got older. But blue eyes for me are dominant. Like both of my children, even though Richard, you would think he was a Mexican, he was really German, dark haired, olive skin, brown eyes.
He was Jeremy. He's not German. He's Jeremy.
He was Jeremy. He was, but Augustus was born with black hair. It fell out and came back blonde. So
that's the opposite of us.
But Gus's eyes when he was born was midnight blue, and the blue eyes for me were dominant over Richard's brown eyes. So anyway, so Grandma would tell me these stories when she was young, and so Grandma's grandmother, so it'd be our great grandmother, was full blood Cherokee Indian. Okay, and so when Grandma,
so is our grandpa on that side, right? He was a native outlaw renegade.
He was a native renegade. He was an outlaw Indian. And my grandma said that when she was a young girl, that her mother they lived in a town that's not even a town anymore. And the name of the town, I'll never forget it, was Spookles, Arkansas. And Grandpa was, the great grandpa, he was a renegade Indian. He was an outlaw Indian. He would go out and drink and come in and drunk and beat our great grandmother and just beat her. Well, she got tired of it. And one day he came in to beat her and she gut shot him. And when she gut shot him, she didn't know if he ran off and died. She didn't know if he ran off and went and got the other outlaw Indians. They were going to come back and scalp him and kill him. So great grandma packed up in a horse and wagon. Think about that. A horse and wagon. Packed everything that they could fit onto the horse and wagon and went as far as they could go and homesteaded in Pettigrew, Arkansas.
Yeah, up on the hill where Granny's house was built, right?
Yes, and Grandma, she got married when she was 13. Grandpa was 14, and she showed me, this is where we went up. This is where we homesteaded our land. This is where we were. So, and we were just like, you and I were just like, I think like Mom was like 132nd full blood Indian. She was just a little bit off from being able to, draw an Indian set.
She was half because Grandma and Grandpa were half. Grandma was like half German and half Cherokee, and Grandpa was more Cherokee than whatever else he was. I don't know what the other portion of him was, but I know Granny was German because of her sister and her Grandma Lily.
Yeah. Yeah, Grandma Alta. And then she had her sister.
No, that was Aunt Alta. That was
Alta.
Grandma's sister, Alta. And she'd go to church with us in the Back Hills Boston church, which was where Mom's funeral was.
Actually, that church that Mom's funeral was a one room schoolhouse that went that grades K through 12 went to, and Mom went her entire life in that one room schoolhouse, and it's the same schoolhouse that was AKA a church that Mom was actually had her funeral at. Come full circle.
Yeah, I remember when Dad went to the hospital to go see Mom, he would not let us go up. John and I sat in the car, and we're just looking up at this towering building. Do you remember how tall it was? It was pretty tall to me. Maybe it was because of how small I was, but it looked so big. And I'm just looking, like, trying to guess which floor my mom's at. And I'm thinking she's on one of the upper floors. That's where I feel her at. And just, I'm thinking repeatedly, like, I'm going to get out of the car, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to go find my mom. But I knew I would get my butt whipped. So I just stayed in the car with John and protecting ourselves. And then he came back, and he was sobbing and crying, and your mom is gone. Like, did she recognize you? Because she didn't recognize Dad when he was there. She looked scared. No. She was legitimately scared.
She didn't recognize me, and she was, and I so wish I would have grabbed her hand, but I was so scared. I was only 12. I was so scared. I mean, she was my whole world, and I was so scared, and I let that fear control me, and I did not grab her hand because I was scared I would grab it and it would be cold. And her head was bandaged, and it was quite an ordeal because, she had a bad head injury from the wreck, and she had to have blood because she had lost so much blood. But when they gave her blood, it made her brain swell, and when her brain swelled, of course, it was killing her. Mm-hmm. So it was just a lose-lose situation, and it was just so terrible. But let me tell you what happened. So. They took me to the hospital because Dad was like, because they said, don't let the children come in. But Dad was like, if anybody can bring her out of her coma, it's Kathy. So they took me up there, and all I could do was sit there. Like, all I could do was sit there and look at her hand, and the fingernail polish was gone. And I wanted to grab it so bad, but I was so scared.
Well, you can feel all these emotions coming off of everybody, like, because we are empathic. You could just feel that, and that just like, kind of shuts you down. You're just like, you don't know what to feel or what to do because you don't know which emotions are yours and what path is yours because you're feeling all these other ones coming in. It's just scary.
Yes. So, and I was staying at my friend Regina's house, the one that we had gotten the car wreck with. And one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up. And instinctively, I walked into her living room, and there was Mom. She was floating. She was wearing this lilac purple, the one I used to always see her in when we were in, whenever she would leave the hologram of her when we were young, the exact same dress. And I just stood before her and looked at her, and Tess, we talked for hours. Now, I've always wanted to be hypnotized to know what we talked about, but I feel like she was transferring her knowledge to me because we just talked for hours. And at the very end of it, she said, "Sweet Pea, I love you and I'll always be with you." And at that point, I instinctively turned around, went back to bed. The next morning, we got up. A few hours later, we got up and sitting at the breakfast table, and the phone rang. As soon as the phone rang, before anything was said, I knew that was the call saying that Mom had died. I knew. And so I was not surprised when they said, "Your mom passed away." I knew. As soon as the phone rang, I knew she came to see me before she passed away. And we talked for hours. And she said, "Sweet Pea, I'll always love you, and I'll always be with you and your brothers and sisters, always."
Well, I don't know if you were with us at the house in Ralston Street at this point, but I was really against moving out of the house we lived in. I did not want to leave. And I actually lost Mom's wedding ring on that property. So we should go back with metal detectors and go try to find it because I was on the back porch and being the tomboy and little monkey that I was crawling on the ledge of the porch and wearing this ring on my finger, and then Dad's like, "Are you guys ready to go? You got the ring?" And I look at my fingers and the ring is gone. I didn't even realize it was gone until he asked me. But that's what happened. So the ring is still there. I think it bounced down into the holler. But when we moved to Ralston Street, it was about a month later, and it was the most vivid dream I had ever had. I know it was her coming to me, and I'm walking through this park, and there's a sidewalk, and then there's about 20 feet of grass on each side, and there's like oak or whatever types of trees on the side, and then I can see this figure walking towards me. And then I see this bench. And then by the time this figure and I meet up, the bench is right where we're at. And it's Mom. And we sit down and she puts her arm around me and we're talking. And she's like, "I'm okay. Everything's okay. Please let, and she named off everybody. Kathy, Greg, Gary, John, your dad. Let everybody know I'm okay and everything's going to be okay." Because she took care of whatever that spirit toll or whatever she had taken care of with whatever dark entity or whatever that she had done, not knowing what it was, we would be okay. Although her passing really tore all of us apart and caused all kinds of issues for us. She just wanted us to know she was okay. She wasn't suffering. She was fine.
When I was in Germany after Mom had died, and we went to Germany with my dad, and I had met this older couple, and they were into witchcraft, and they were into some heavy black witchcraft, and I remember like they would put me they were into some like heavy, really demonic stuff. Like he would like skin her and stuff like that. Like he would like skin some of her skin off. Like it was just really crazy, and of course I was in this anger, hate mode, and one time they put me in a trance and took me down to this place that was they took me what is it when you leave your body?
Astral.
Okay, they astraled me to this place, to this castle, and they led me through the rooms, and I remember it was so vivid. Like I was there, but my body wasn't there. I was there, and like they would lead me through these corridors, and like when I would bump into a wall, I could literally feel the wall, and they kept telling me that I was trying to get my mom to, trying to help my mom escape, and I ended up finding her down there and leading her out, whatever it was, and. I don't know what if that was true and what if that was. I know I was there. I don't know what kind of motive that they had at the time, but it was a very, very scary and a very, very real thing. So and I know that all of this plays a part in this everything that's happened, and it's real. I mean, it's real. Spirits are real.
Yes.
Spirits are real. Other dimensions are real, and if you have a gift and you're blessed to be able to see that other dimension, but I believe like when you die, I really believe in my heart that when you die, that all the answers all the questions will be answered. I just feel that. I've always felt that my whole life in my heart, that that everything will come together full circle. Like all that questions will be answered, all that you'll have that knowledge, that knowledge of everything. So it's just, I mean, life is amazing. Life is an amazing journey, and it's been, it's been a very in-depth spiritual journey for us, and the things that we've experienced and the things that we've been through, and it's just, I'm blessed to have the life that I have. And I wouldn't go back as much pain and as much anguish as we've been through, and as much like heartache that I've even caused myself, and the heartache that's been brought into my life that I had no control over. I wouldn't change any of it, because it's really made me the person that I am today. And today, and I love me. I love the person that I am, and I know that it's Mom and me and Mom and you, and it just, we're very unique. We're very unique people.
I felt the same way. people say, oh, this was a mistake or this was a problem or whatever, but if I learn from it, it's not a mistake, it's a lesson, and it makes me who I am. And being molested and raped or abused or all these other things that have happened to me, I have adapted, I have overcome, and that's made me the person that I am. I refuse to be a victim.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I'm owning that shiz, and I'm adapting and overcoming and becoming stronger, and it makes me who I am. And sometimes, I'm a little crazy, but, what do you expect?
Well, you know what? I've been told my whole life, especially my adult life, because people just don't meet people like me and you. And I have people tell me that, I've had so many people tell me, you're weird. But in a good way, like you're weird, you're really, really weird, because you'll never meet anyone like me. How do you catch a unique rabbit? Unique up on it. You know what I mean?
Unique up on it.
How do you catch a tame rabbit? Tame way. People just think that I'm really weird because I'm so unique and I'm so genuine. I wouldn't trade me for nothing. For all my weirdness, for all nothing. I wouldn't trade it.
So many people are muted or they're not who they should be because they're afraid of the judgment and the ridicule, which does come along with being in this world. There's so many people pointing fingers and judging. And Shara's saying murder is not okay, and I don't even know what she's talking about. I don't think we even talked anything about murder, but we got a minute going until we go to our second break. But yeah, our
murder is not okay. Where did that come from? Murder is not okay.
Shar said that. Shar.
Who? Shar?
Mm-hmm.
Who did we murder? We murdered no one.
Well, she's saying you're both saying all that has happened is okay. Well, at first it's not. It's really traumatizing and really, detrimental to the spirit and whatnot, but you can build upon that. We can't help our mother being murdered by a drunk driver or, being molested by family members or friends of the family that we trusted, things like that. We go through it, we build upon it, and we overcome. But I know that these things happen for a reason. Had Mom not passed away, we'd still be in that abusive cycle in our lives. The party life and all this stuff that we were admitted to. Yeah. But on that note, we have to go to our second break. So, Shar, Trip, everybody, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages. Y'all. Come back now. Come back now, you hear?
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month, where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. It's hour number 3 of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now back to the Rocky Mountains. Here's Tessa.
Hey guys, welcome back and thank you so much for joining us tonight on the 6th of October. We're getting closer and closer to the veil, where the veil is thinning, and we're talking about our supernatural and ghost stories. Welcome back, sister. We have Kathy Weaver.
Hi, everybody. So happy. Hi, everybody. I hope y'all are enjoying the show.
So I'm trying to remember. Okay, we left off with Mom. Well, it is the 7th now. Robert has corrected me. He's in Australia right now, so it is Sunday, October 7th in Australia and beyond. And it's actually, I believe, the 7th here as well at this point. Yes, it's after midnight, so we're all on the same page. I'm so glad we're on the same page.
Would it be too cliche to say the shrimp on the barbie? Says it's midnight now.
Shall we throw another shrimp on the barbie?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. So happy.
So, do you remember when we took Dad up to Pine Grove Cemetery and we were burying him, and then we were trying to do this video that was kind of like the Blair Witch Project, and we had the sun setting behind us because we got up there so late? Like, that was cool.
Okay, so let me back this up. Okay, let me back this up a little bit. Okay, let me tell you this. Let me tell you my perception of this. Okay, so what happened? So, you know, Dad was, okay, so as far as being, because I was in my addiction for a long time. And I remember Dad told me one of the most profound things Dad ever told me, because he had cirrhosis of the liver. And I remember asking him, like, Dad, how does this affect you? How does it make you feel? And he would tell me, like, well, I'll be watching TV and I'll pick up the remote and I'll not know what the remote is or what it does or where I'm at. And one of the most profound things that he ever told me was, sis, in the end, you always quit. You either quit because you're in jail or prison, you quit because you're dying of cirrhosis of the liver or hepatitis, or you quit because you live. So choose life. That's what he always told me, and that could not be more profound today. But if you'll remember when we were kids, Dad worked at the television station. Mom used to make movies. She used to make skits. She used to make all these things. But if you'll remember,
her and Dad together.
Yes, and we were always addicted to scary movies. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
And you remember?
I still thrive on that. I go to bed to that to this day.
Me too. Me too. I love scary movies, especially the more true they can be, the more I love them. I'm not too much about slasher movies because I want it to be something that can possibly happen. So, we'd be watching scary movies as kids. Dad would crawl in the window, scare the hell out of us. We'd all freak out. Like, Mom would put, like, fake worms in our spaghetti, try to freak us out. Like, I remember on Halloween, she blindfolded us. We put our hand in this and put our hand in this. It was, brains. It was snakes.
Spaghetti and meatballs. It's like, this is brains, and this is this, and this is that.
Yes. Okay, so we always had, like, our family was always, like, pranksters like that. And what I remember is, okay, so Dad was he was on his way to Denver to get a liver transplant, and he passed away on the way to Denver. And so he passed away. So they sent his body to be cremated. Remember? And do you remember? They were going to be shipped from where he was cremated to you. And
he got lost in the mail.
He got lost in the mail.
That is totally him.
That is totally him. Like, okay, he's tying one on. He's like going for one last fling,
Oh, let's not go here. We're going to go all the way over here. I've never been to this place, so I want to go visit this place, and then I'm going to make my way back. And
so we're going to go.
When that happened, at first I freaked out, and then I was like, that is totally Dad. Like, this is Dad. I'm not going to freak out. He's going to show up. He's going to be late for his own funeral. This is to be expected.
Yes,
I can deal with this.
Then, so you had him in the urn. You put him in the backpack because his only wish was to be buried by Mom. Okay, Mom is buried
Greyhound
in
bus.
BFE out in the middle of nowhere. Like GPS doesn't even find where Mom is
I
buried.
finally figured out how to do it. There's a 420 in the sign. It's 4520. But you cut out the 5, you got 420. I know that's the road I take instead of this one that goes off a sheer cliff and this other one that goes to some old hillbilly's home that is like, what are you doing in my front yard with a shotgun?
Out in the middle of nowhere. Out in the middle of nowhere. Not a light, not a porch light, not a nothing. You're talking out in the middle of nowhere. So our brother Greg had got permission from the people who did whatever to the cemetery for us to bury Dad by Mom. So you took off in a bus, and you remember, because Dad was a big guy. Like, you had him in a backpack, coming 3 days from Colorado on a Greyhound bus to come bury him. So
I even asked the guy, I was like, are you serious? Like, my dad would not fit in this urn. Like, my dad was a big guy. Are you serious? He really fits in here. It was very heavy, but he said, we can't get every ash. There are remnants in the bottom that are all mixed together, and those get put into a certain, like, group or mass grave thing, whatever. But for the majority, they get him in there. His iron rods are put aside, or titanium rods, whatever was going on in his leg and stuff. But yeah, I was like, my dad could not fit in this little bitty thing, but it was very heavy. You could feel the weight of him.
Yes. And you carried him for 3 days on a Greyhound bus from Colorado to Arkansas. Okay, so when you came, it was me, you, and Greg, and we were like hanging out and kicking it. So we were on the last day. You had to leave to go back to Colorado. Okay, we have to go bury Dad. So do you remember? Okay, so what are we going to bury Dad in? Because we didn't want the worms. We didn't want the worms and the ants to get him. Okay, so we're going to put the urn in what? Okay, I'm a painter, career painter. We're going to put him in a 5-gallon paint bucket. So we go out.
And a ton of trash bags. We're being so overprotective. It was insane. If he wants to escape, he's not getting out of this paint bucket.
Yes. So we take off, and it's when, okay, so it's whenever the sun sets really early, and it gets dark really early, and we take off to go down there, and we get there about the time the sun sets. It's a full moon. We light candles. We're smoking. We got these post hole diggers. We're digging this hole to bury Dad in a cemetery with a full moon. Okay, could that not be more fitting? You're doing Blair Witch Project with the damn snot in your nose. And, oh my God, I hear this and I hear that. And we're digging and digging. And
but
then
there were sounds. It was weird. Like, I've never heard these sounds before in the cemetery when I've gone there. And the sun was just going down, and it was really, really creepy. And I started to dig the hole, and Greg was like, get away from there. You should not be doing this right now. Like, let me do this. And that was really awesome of him, which I didn't mind at all. Like, I knew what I was doing. I was doing something for my dad, and it didn't hurt me, but I still appreciate him stepping in and doing that for me. And then I could do the rest of, like, the Blair Witch Project of Dad being buried with Mom. And what the perfect ending than doing a scary movie for them, because that's what they did together in life, was make scary movies. And that's what we did together for family time, was watch scary movies. It was just awesome.
So do you remember, like, so Greg's digging, because, you know, like, I did it for a while, threw my neck out. Okay, threw my neck out. And he's like digging, and then he hears thump.
It was hollow.
Thump. Every time he'd go down, thump. Oh my God.
We're like, I think you better stop, because we're about to dig through the top of this casket. And I don't want to go there. Let's stop right now. I think we're close enough.
No. We're like, okay, it can only be fitting to bury Dad on top of Mom. Okay, we're putting Dad on top of Mom. And we buried him on top of Mom.
We did. It was awesome. It was a good burial, and I still have it somewhere. I have to dig through all my videotapes, because I have all of Dad's from city council meetings and stuff, but I know I have it labeled especially for us, and I was supposed to send it to you, but our lives got crazy on your end and mine, and so it's just trying to really relocate those things. But I shall find it.
Yes, I would love to. I would love to see that. I would love for you to post that. Like, that would just be so amazing. That would be so amazing.
So we talked about the shadow people in the trees on Ralston Street. Do you remember when we did the Bloody Mary experience?
Yes. Scared the heck out of me. But
yeah, the hell out of me. Yeah, it was very, very freaking scary. It scared the hell out of me as well. Like, and I think it was you and your friends, like, ran out, and me and John and Greg and somebody else, I think it was Greg's friend, we were stuck in the bathroom and we couldn't get out no matter how hard we tried, and we had that plant hanging over, and it turned into a claw with blood dripping off of it, and then we saw that woman behind us, and we're, like, screaming bloody murder, trying to get out, and you guys are trying to open the door, and we're like, ah!
Yes. Oh, my gosh. So true and so real. It was just crazy things that just happened that were just stuff you just can't make up. Like, there's just some stuff that you just, Hollywood can't do it. The movies can't do it. It's pure, raw, real stuff that happened.
Talking about Dad, I remember that night before I sent him on the bus, I was out with John, trying to get John to come back with me, and of course we're chasing a high, aka methamphetamines, back in the day, and then I finally got home, and Dad's like, I'm really tired, I think I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm like, wait, there's these pictures I wanted to show you of your grandkids, and this and this and that, of Nova and Kinsey, and he's like, I'd really like to, but sis, he always called her sis, I'd really like to, sis, but I need to go to bed, and then it took me forever to get to sleep, and I finally did, and then I woke up, and he's sitting above me, holding his walking stick in his hands, just staring at me, and I'm like, Dad, what time is it? And he tells me what time it is, and it's only 30 minutes before we can make it to the bus, and it had been a blizzard that night over the passes and everything, and I had my Subaru, it wasn't an Outback, it was another one, like an S4 or something like that, and so I'm passing cars, and I'm like, Dad, we gotta get you there. Like, how could you not wake me up in time? I wish he wouldn't have. Like, I wish I wouldn't have woken up and seen him there. I wish I would have missed that bus because, like, I got to hug him. I got to say goodbye. And we even followed his bus out. Like, we're going out of Durango when it goes to the pass where you go up, Farmington Hill, and you go to Aztec and Farmington or whatnot. But yeah, like, we never saw him again, and I talked to him over and over again, and he's talking about, that night he said, I'm quitting all my medicine. I was like, Dad, what are you doing? That's not good. And he said, I want to do it because I want them to see how bad off I am. And I'm like, Dad, that's not good for your organs. Like, your body is dependent on that. You may not be, but your body is. And he ended up not having liver failure. He had kidney failure.
Yeah.
And it made me feel terrible because I was just struggling, like, should I stay here? Should I go there? And, what's Vernon going to do? And worrying about all these other things. I wish I would have just gone there and been with him in his last hours. Although I was on the phone, I wasn't there in person. But, yeah, after, all this stuff happened, like, have you had any other, like, paranormal encounters?
Have I? I have. Been through my travels, and I always see things. I always kind of make a joke of it. Well, I see dead people, kind of deal, and I tell people that but I can see, like, the last job that I had, I worked for Adidas, and I would be sewing and be having a conversation with people, and there would be somebody standing beside them, and I always made it kind of a joke, but it never was really a joke. Like, you have someone standing beside you, wave at them because they really want the recognition. Or when I had spent my time in the place that I was at in prison, I always seen the people. I always seen people that would walk by, the people that would walk the halls, and and I always knew, like, there was always someone who would tap you, try to wake you up, and you would wake up and there would be nobody there. I've always seen things, always. Now I have lost or, been out of practice of, getting to communicate. And that's, and I really I envy you and that you have honed that gift and held on to that gift all this time. And I still have it. I just don't have it as strong as I had it when I was younger.
Well, I remember when I was younger, it was stronger. And living with Mama Sandy and Uncle Bill, I would sleep in the upstairs bedroom at the end. And I knew there was something at my back door. I couldn't see it. Sometimes I could, and it looked like a man just standing there staring in. But I was just kind of wanting or longing for that connection again to the other side. Between the age of 8 to about 13 is when it started to pick up again, and that's when I was able to go to the store, like City Market or whatever. I'd run there, I'd run back because I wasn't smoking yet, so I can run a long distance. And once I got to my street, I would just walk down and enjoy the neighborhood dogs and the flowers and all this other stuff, and I'd hear whispering and people saying my name, and I'd look behind me and there's nobody there, and I'd see shadows darting here and there, and that's when I started to experience it again. And even in junior high, we'd go to Mesa Verde, and I remember having this major anxiety and panic attack because I remember what Mom went through. And, you know, I'm thinking, am I going to go there and I'm going to see my fate too? Am I going to see my death in my own eyes and, like, tell my family I need this done for my funeral? It really messed with me, and then I go there and nothing happened. There was nothing. Right. But yeah, it was very interesting, and the Four Corners area is very, very active, and a lot of psychics and mediums say that this is basically like a major vortex for all kinds of paranormal happenings and things. And Mom kind of backed that up.
She was there. She's in the very four corners that you've stood at, the very four corners that I have stood at. It is a very, very powerful thing. And, you know, she was always drawn to there. Like, she went there several times, you know, in her life. So I really feel like that there's a very strong presence there and a very strong power there. Yes, I do.
So we were talking about shadow people and demons and stuff. You had this demon that attacked you repeatedly, and I actually had sleep paralysis. And this one incident that I had was in Farmington, New Mexico, and Vern's band was playing in Farmington, and there was a house in the back. It was basically 2 apartments attached to a bathroom. So there was a doorway through each side of the bathroom where you could go to one apartment or the other, and there was, you know, like a dining room and kitchen, whatever area. And we had gone to bed that afternoon trying to get a nap, so we weren't tired for that following night, and having trouble getting to sleep as usual. I see this black figure in the room. Like, there's no windows, there's just a door, and there's light coming through the door, and I can see this figure that is darker than dark, and I can hear him through my mind telling me that he wants me and he will have me. And I was like, no, you won't. I'm not yours. You can't have me. And he said, yes, I will. And then he bent down and kissed me. And when he did, like, before he did that, like, he smiled, and his teeth were, like, really sharp, and, like, I can only say glowing because I could see them in the dark. They were just bright and shiny. You can see the glimmer off of them, even though there was no sunlight coming in. He reached down and kissed me, and this electrical shock went through my canines, through my body, which was frozen and like a sleep paralysis. And once that did that, I could kick my feet. So I was kicking my feet frantically, hoping Vern would wake up, which he did, and he saw this figure as well, and he grabbed me and scooped me up and pulled me towards him, and the thing disappeared. I don't know if it shocked into the wall or whatever, because he pulled me into him so I couldn't see him anymore. But I have seen shadow figures before, and out of all of them, this one scared me the most. And I had to go to work the next day, and I remember looking in my rearview mirror, looking for him. Like, I could feel him. I thought he was in my back seat. I thought he was with me somewhere, but I could not see him. But I was so afraid that he was going to attach to me and follow me home, that I kept looking for him, but he was never there. So I think I left him behind. It was just really, really freaky.
Because you never know when they're going to follow you. Like, when they're going to follow you, when they're going to attach to you. I don't know if we've just really got an innate ability to maybe keep them at bay. But I know, like our brother Greg, he went to a psychic one time, and the psychic said, "You have a web over you." And Greg was like, "What do you mean I have a web over me?" And she's like, "You have a web over you. It's a web of protection." So I feel like, that was one of the things that Mom put into place to protect us. Like, even though we've gone through some things and we've done some things, this web of protection has really protected us. I really feel that.
I think it has, but at the same time, I think it's put us out there for other things that we would not have experienced otherwise.
Right. But if we had experienced them, we wouldn't be who we are today.
And that's why I love and appreciate it.
Me too.
I quit doing it for a while because you tell certain people about your experiences and they look at you like you're crazy. No matter how close you thought you were to them, they're just like, oh my God, and they'd never talk to you again. So you feel that ridicule, that judgment, and then when Dylan Redwine went missing is when I was holding Floyd. He was a brand new little baby boy. Dylan went missing in November. Floyd was born in September, and I'm holding this little baby boy, and I'm looking out in the backyard, which is a horse field, and I'm thinking that perhaps Mark Redwine had hid him out somewhere, and he's still alive, and hopefully he's warm and safe wherever he is what I'm thinking. Please let him be safe and warm, because it's so cold outside. And Vern automatically was like, he's dead. And I was like, don't say that. I don't want to believe that. I want to believe he's still here, because that was Kinsey's friend. Like, she'd walk to after school church programs with him and stuff. And that's what brought me out of what I call the paranormal closet. I don't care what people think anymore. I want to help this mom. Like, I'm holding my son and I'm thinking about her, missing her son, and where is he? I hope he's safe and warm, and I just want to help. So that's when I started Four Corners Paranormal, and I just didn't care anymore. I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. I want to help people. I want to help Elaine, and I want to help anybody else that I can. And it's just grown and grown and grown. Like, every year it grows bigger and bigger, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm hoping we can find more of his remains and put him to rest, because we've only found about 20% by this point.
When you say more of his remains, so y'all have found remains. And I know that you worked with the police, and you have done some amazing things. And so by you coming out and sharing your gift with the world, you have done some amazing things. So they have found some of his remains.
At first we found like his ankle joint and a foot and his shoe. And then there was like a shoulder portion. And then the very damning evidence was when a hunter found his skull within the brush. It's like this gleaming rock. What is that? And he goes over and looks, and it's a skull. So we found that. And Mark's going to go to trial on my birthday, November 26th. And I'm still going to be there for that, because I just know, like, we're going to get justice for Dylan. And that's what we've been looking for the past, like, 5 or 6 years. It's been...
So he was arrested.
Finally.
And he's being convicted.
Yeah, this year he was arrested, finally. They caught him in California. He was in a semi-truck teaching another semi-truck driver what to do, where to go, yada yada. They found him. They found notebooks where he was writing like really morbid, weird notes about Dylan and about what he had done to him and stuff. And I've gone up and down that mountain with my dowsing rods, and it's pinpointed on certain points all the way up the mountain. And what they've said, that his body was taken apart, and it wasn't just because of animals. It was tool marks.
Wow.
Some tool had taken him apart, and I did it several times. I was pregnant, so I couldn't go on foot, but I got the pings off of my dowsing rods, and repeatedly, same spots. I went up and down the mountain 3 to 6 times and took pictures of these areas. And there's one part where it looks like there was a shallow grave dug. Like, you could see the indentation of where this place was dug, but we didn't have a shovel to dig it up. Had we done it, we'd have to contact police forces. But still looking for answers, waiting for the mountain to open up again. I don't think it's quite closed yet. We could still go up this year, but every year we strive to go up there and find more, and hopefully we can put him to rest totally, because I know a lot of him is lost, but at least we got his dad in prison, and he's gonna pay for what he did.
It was his dad?
It was his dad. He,
oh my God.
Before he went and moved to Colorado Springs, he found pictures of his dad, which were incriminating, as far as his dad was wearing girls' underwear and diapers and, like bonnets on his head, like baby bonnets and stuff, and having a pacifier in his mouth and eating stuff out of his diaper, stuff as in shiz. And there's pictures of this, and when Dylan went against what he wanted, he even told the judge, I don't want to go here, this is what I found, and the judge still said, well, you're gonna go. And he went, and he didn't even make it 24 hours. Like, there's pictures of him in Walmart where he's got these red marks on his arm where his dad grabbed him, red marks on his face where his dad slapped him, and his dad told him to stay in the truck, but he got out. And you can see him on surveillance cameras with these red marks on his arms and his face, and you can tell he's been crying. And he's trying to look for somebody, anybody that knows him, but there's nobody there that night. And so on the way between Durango and Vallecito, Colorado, he killed him. I don't think he intentionally did, but I think he like backhanded him and like broke his neck. But at the same time, evidence has shown they did make it back to the house, even though his cell phone didn't. He lost contact at some point between here and there. There is signs that he was on the couch watching TV, and his dad had attacked him from behind. There's blood on that couch he was sleeping on, blood on the coffee table, and blood on the love seat across the way. He was trying to get away, but he couldn't, because you get that head trauma and you can't think straight. You can't get out. And we went up and we did investigations. We got his voice on, if you want to call it the ghost box, the SB11 on speaker, SB7, we could hear him say hello repeatedly. And he sounded surprised, like the second and third time, like, oh my God, they can hear me. Because we're like, yeah, Dylan, we can hear you. And he's like, hello? And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we went back to the house that he was murdered in, and walked down there, and it was me and Glow and Kat and Sadie, and there's this, cow guard, aka deer guard, where things can't get into your yard that are hoofed, because they'll fall into these slots. And Kat and Glow go in there, and Kat turns around, she's like, what are you guys doing? Come on. And me and Sadie are standing there, and I'm like, I can't go any further, because I see this thing in the window, somebody's here. And Sadie's like, yeah, it looks like this dog figure, and it looked like Anubis, but the ears were not as pronounced. They were smaller, but it was still on its hind legs. Come to find out, it was the jackal, because of all the evil shenanigans that had gone on there. And they got to the house, and they're talking to us like, come on, we only have a limited amount of time, because basically we're going to be trespassing. But me and Sadie could not go across the cattle guard. We're like, we can't, we're trying, we can't do it, we can't. And so they came back, and the thing followed me to my house. My roommate saw the jackal chasing my truck down my driveway, because he was dating my neighbor, Sister Lisa. It was just really weird. But I know I'm going to find more of them. We're going to find more remnants. We're going to put him to rest. There's a bench there where his partial remains are buried, but we only have, like I said before, 20%. And that's what put me back on this path of coming out of the paranormal closet and trying to help people. And I don't even charge people, because I feel like if I did, I'd be taking advantage, and I don't want to. Like, there's not a lot of help for this stuff, and I understand it. I want to help other people understand it and try to coexist or get rid of it, needs be.
Yeah, and you've been all over the country doing things, which is amazing. I remember you had gone to the hotel, and you went with Nova, and you went with maybe a nephew, and to investigate the drowning of the little boy and little girl. Do you remember?
Yeah, Billy and his little sister.
Yes, and you sent me a picture that you had took of Nova in front of this hotel where they had died. And I was just amazed, because Nova's dress is being pulled out to the side.
And up.
Pulled out to the side and up. And behind the nephew, you could see the little boy. And it was like the most prominent picture. And I was like, oh my gosh. and you ended up telling me what had happened. What had happened? Tell me again.
Okay, so we went to Las Vegas, Nevada, and we went on our very first ghost hunt, and that's where I acquired the dowsing rods, which Granny, hey Andy O'Brien, good to see you.
Hi,
Granny, she had taught us how to douse for water. I don't know if you guys got to learn that too with different sticks, like
water.
apple tree sticks or willow sticks or whatever.
And then copper, she would tell us how deep the well is. She would find the well. She could find gas. She could find water. And she could tell you how deep it was.
Yeah, she didn't teach us all that, but you got that. But yeah, I got these copper rods on this ghost hunt. And I remember first time I used them, like my whole body was shaking. And it felt so heavy to lift these little tiny, brass wire, like hanger copper rods up. Like I felt like I was trying to lift up a child, and it's communicating with me and spinning around and saying yes and no, and there was a little girl on this site that had died. Well, I ended up buying like 3 different dowsing rods from this person because I was like so impressed on how well it worked for me. Well, on the way back, we stopped in Kingman, Arizona, and we had spent the night and communicated with a ghost there that had, I think she committed suicide or she was murdered. I think she was murdered. She was basically kidnapped and used for prostitution, and then she was murdered. But she had kids that she was still looking for. And so we were communicating with her. Well, the very next day, we go to this Motel 6 because they have this restaurant there. And we had breakfast. Me and the kids finished early. Grandma, Vern, and Dave are still in the restaurant finishing their breakfast. And the kids are like, can we use the dowsing rods? Can we use them? And I'm like, okay, but you guys be careful. And I showed them the yes and no and all this other stuff. And we got the name Billy. I can't remember what his sister's name was. Can you lead us to where you died? And he led us to this pool. And then we found out that his sister, little sister, had fallen or jumped into the pool. Maybe she went on the stairs and like fell off or whatever. But he was trying to save her, and he didn't know how to swim, so he drowned himself. So he and his little sister drowned. This whole pool was like blocked off with a fence and locked gates and everything. Like we couldn't get in, and there was a pool room and everything. So we're getting this whole story from them through dowsing rods. You can go A, B, C, D and numbers and whatever with the dowsing rods, yes and no, yada yada. And then Davy Joe's like, you want to go home with us? You can go home with us if you want. And I'm like, Davy Joe, no. Like, I forgot to tell him, don't ever invite something to go home with you. Ever, ever, ever. Like, I know you feel bad for this kid, but this could be a demon or something trying to play like it's a kid. You. Yeah, and then go home with you. But at this house they were staying, there was already this dark entity in their attic. Somebody had been murdered in this house. Like, his throat was slit. Through drug dealers or whatever, like really dark energy going on. And I think it's here at my house now. I think that's what was going on when I was gone, and Vern is still feeling it today. He said he got home the other day from work. I felt fine, got in the shower, and then he felt these tingles, got sparkles in his eyes. He's feeling these feelings of he just wants to punch me in my head. And he doesn't really feel that way ever, but he's getting these feelings like of things to do, and he's like, what the hell is this? Something's trying to take me over. And he realizes it, and then he finally got it off of him. So there is something here. It's really weird and creepy, but at least my kids are safe, and I know I can handle it. I know Vern can handle it, but so long as it's not affecting my kids, I'm okay. As long as I can get it off and away before it does, I'm okay. Where the heck did it come from? I don't know. I think it came with Dave and my nephews, because they're living here now because a tree fell on their house. Not just one, but 2 fell on their house. Now they're living in a trailer in our front yard, and the kids in the house so they can be rested and go to school. But yeah, crazy stuff happening. I'm not scared, but I'm prepared.
So what about, okay, so that leads me to a few years ago, you had came down and we went to the battlefield.
Oh yeah.
We went to the battlefield in Prairie Grove where the famous battle was fought, and we had all of your equipment. Everybody had different equipment, and you had your camera, and every time, like where the infirmary was, It was a hot night, but it was when you got close to that infirmary, it was cool, and a mist settled over it, and we took all kinds of pictures, and Ashley kept saying, "Do you see a red light? I keep seeing a red light." And we're like, "No, we don't see a red light." And
it's like blinking.
Yes, it was blinking, and I don't know what it was that Natalie had. It was like the radio frequency where you talked into it. She kept asking it questions.
It was the SB11 ghost box.
So we were like, and you were like, I'm like, okay, I feel something down here, and you would snap pictures, and we were walking. We were getting ready to leave, and we were walking, and there was this one trail that went down, kind of curving down into some woods, and me and Natalie went down there. And we walked down there, and I was like, well, I feel something here. I really feel something here. You snapped some pictures, and we're walking back up the hill, me and Natalie. And she had been asking questions like, what is your name? What is this? And she heard, and it said, behind you. And she was like, behind you? She said, behind me. And I said, oh, my God, what's behind us? And she was like, he said something's behind us. And about this time, here comes a cop car up that trail, telling us it was
what are you doing
about the cops. Yeah, it was warning us about the cops.
Well, I remember that you had gone down there, and we were peaked because we were getting pings and hits, and we were hearing voices over the ghost box. And you're like, I'm going to go down this path, and I was following you. I think I was like 10 or 15 feet behind you, taking pictures and stuff like you were saying. And then all of a sudden you freaked out, and you're like, it just said, what are you doing? And you started like hauling butt up the trail, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? It was the cops. It was the Popo, because they had gotten alerts that we were there and we didn't get permission, and so they were coming up that trail in a cop car. Like, you usually wouldn't drive a cop or car up this trail, but he did because he was a police officer, an officer of the law, and we got booted out because we didn't get permission. There were no locked gates, nothing like that. We thought it was free reign, but the next 2 nights, we actually went in there, and we got so much activity. It was insane. We went to the house, which was not the original. It had been burned down during the war, but had been rebuilt to specs. And Nova was like, I just saw somebody run up the staircase. He was wearing khaki-colored clothing. And so I'm thinking park ranger. It must have been a park ranger that worked here before, and he's just trying to hide or something. Next day we go, and we're on this trail which goes down into the tree line. It's a driving trail. We put the EMF detector out there, which is an antenna, and I put my speakers out the window, and I'm playing Civil War sounds, cannons, gunfire, people screaming, chaos, etc. And then with the FLIR camera, I can see explosions around the tree line. And then all of a sudden, Nova's like, "Oh my God, Mom, can we leave? Can you take me home? Please take me home. Please take me home." And I'm like, "Calm down. Like, we're okay. Nothing's gonna attack us." And she's like, "No. Please take me home. Please take me home." Come to find out, she saw a guy in a khaki uniform run by her window and right at my door jump into the tree line trying to hide from the gun and cannon fire. And,
wow.
I'm thinking, you think of Civil War, you think of blue and gray. These are the colors that we're used to. But when we went in the next day to find out if we can get permission to be there, signing off on permits and everything, their uniforms, me and Ashley looking through the museum, were khaki colored with gold emblems. Gold on the collars, gold on the buttons, khaki colored uniforms. It's a southern offshoot of the Civil War. And I'm like, holy shnikes. Like, she saw a Civil War agent this first day and the second day. Like, she is so connected with the other side. It just amazed me because I didn't see it. I could feel it. And then the very last night we were there, it was crazy. We weren't getting anything. We got pings off of the house, which used to be their home, and we communicated with this ghost named Mary. We communicated with her kids, and we're getting pings off the EMF antenna. And Mary was her name. Her kids were there. Her husband actually left her for a younger woman. Surprise, surprise. Right. But she was still there, and we even got a picture of her on the FLIR camera with her poofed out dress and everything in the middle of the trees. And she communicated with us. But that last night we were there, it was me and Ashley, Marble Sack Firecrotch. I can't remember his real name. That's what Kinsey nicknamed him. And Kinsey and Nova. I think Nova stayed home because she's like, I had enough of this paranormal stuff over here.
Right.
It was me, Ashley, Kinsey, and Firecrotch. And we go down there. We first get there and we park by these bathrooms. And the lights are motion triggered. And when we pull up, the men's bathroom light is on. And so we're like, hey, Marble Sack, can you go in there and and see if anybody's in there? He's like, I don't want to go alone. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go with you so you don't have to go alone. And nobody was in there, but the lights were on. And the light was not set on. It was motion censored, activated. And even in the girls' bathroom, we felt uneasy. And walking out, the girls' bathroom was off because it was triggered to go off. There was nobody in there anymore, but the male's bathroom was still on. Got all my equipment out of the car, walked down the path to where the old house was, and rebuilt back to specs. And we didn't go any further than that. We sat out front. We didn't even go in the front yard. We sat on the sidewalk in front, the blacktop, and put the SB11 out there, put the antenna out there, all these other things. And Ashley's like, look at your car. There's lights on in your car. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I look and the lights in my car are on. And I'm like, that's weird because I locked it down. No lights were on. There should be no lights on there. Yeah. And then we could feel things encroaching on us, like from every direction. Like they were done with us being there. At day 3, they were like, get out.
Get out.
Protective. Yeah. Get out. You've had enough. We're done with you. Get the heck out. Go on about yourself. Like, you've disrupted our peace. No longer. You need to go. But we got so much activity, and I know I have video of the EMF detector going off and all these other things that we got from evidence. I just have to find the right file. Some are on the SD disk, some are on the camera, which I have to upload a different way. But I can't find the ones with the communicating with Mary and stuff. But it was so awesome. And I wish you would have been there for those last couple nights. That was amazing.
I wish I would have been there too. Like, there was just so many amazing things going on. And it was just, and I remember like some of the pictures, we seen some of the pictures like when you had put them on the computer when we got back. And I remember distinctly like the red light was everywhere. Like, and only Ashley could see the red light. And the one picture of me running up the hill and how distorted I was. And the one picture,
your face, you're like, "Wah!"
Yeah. And the one picture where I was standing there by a tree and like half of my face was normal and the other half was all blurred. Like there was something standing in front of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was so interesting, and I'm excited to go back there, but like everywhere I've gone, there's something there, and when people don't believe, I feel sad for them because I know there's something on the other side. I know there's something more than darkness and nothingness. I know there's something more. Like, we keep going because we are made up of energy, and it is within us. Even scientific studies have shown there's a spot at the lower part of the brain and the upper part of the spine where this light just hangs on for up to 30 minutes after you're gone. There's just this ball of energy, and then finally it can go. Or sometimes it's sooner than others. But I know there's more than just nothingness. What do you feel on that?
I know that there's more than nothingness. Like, I know that there's more than nothingness. I don't believe that. Do I believe every soul stays here? No, I don't believe every soul stays here. But I know that there is not nothingness. We all go somewhere, whether good or whether bad or whether we stay here. That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
So do you believe that what we are on this side, we are on the other? Like, you don't die and just all of a sudden become good.
No.
I think you are what you are. What do you think?
I think that you are what you are. You are what you are, and that in this life, you can go from being something that's not good, and you can turn your life around, or you can go totally the opposite direction. But I do believe that There's an old saying that says, as a tree falls, so it shall lay. So when you die, as you fall, that's what you're going to be, whether it be good or bad, good or evil. You know, that's what I believe.
And I do believe, like, you can learn afterlife. Like, if you're in this certain mind step, you can be educated, you can grow. You're not just stuck in this place. You can grow, you can learn, and you can achieve different things. You can adapt and overcome. It just depends on who you are and what you're willing to do. But I think a lot of people are, Ron's saying, careful with that, Tess. But I think you can learn and you can overcome things, and you're not just stuck in one place. Like a lot of people are. Like, they're afraid to go to the other side because they're afraid of judgment and other things that are to come. But I think there are good things on the other side as well. You know, people talk about the spirit prison and whatnot. You can be there.
Well, they call that purgatory. You know,
Yeah.
some religions call that purgatory.
That's what I was about to say. Spirit prison, purgatory, like the land in between where you can learn and you can build upon yourself. Still, you're not just, you know, you learn certain things through life, but you don't learn everything. But things can be made unto you in the afterlife, and you can learn from those, and you can build upon yourself. You're not just stuck in this nothingness or this netherworld. You can just learn and build upon it and move on from that.
Yeah, I can accept that. I can so accept that.
So we got about 8 minutes till we're done, and I'm trying to think. I'm rustling my brain. What have we not talked about?
Let me think. What have we not talked about? Okay, so let's talk about where do we go from here? Okay, so where do we go from here? What now? When we walk through the door and we go, what now? So where do we go now? Having the knowledge that we have, like, okay, so you've started your business. You're a paranormal investigator, a very valid and very you're very credible in your quest for what you've done. So what do we do now? You know, I know that you're still working on the case with the police with the little boy. I know you travel all over America to different places. I know we have planned a haunted trip, because we want to go somewhere and investigate things. So where do you see your gift and putting your gift to use to help people today?
We're constantly
or in
working,
the future.
Like, we used to just go out and do full moon hunts and other fun stuff, but now we're so backlogged with different cases, whether it's Bigfoot or native stuff. We have case upon case upon case, so we don't get to go out and have fun anymore, really. But I love it because I'm able to help people and help them coexist with these spirits or move them on if need be. But there is that case of free agency. Like, it does exist for you and I and for people on the other side. There's that free agency. You have the choice to choose, and whether or not a living person wants to move you on, it's up to you whether you do or not. And some people are just like, no, I'm not ready yet, because they have not come to terms with what they have done or what has happened in their life and what is holding them behind. And we don't charge, because I feel like if we did, we'd be taking advantage. If they want to give us a donation or a tip or whatever that would help us with gas and our equipment, which costs thousands of dollars, which I don't mind, because I bought it because I love to use them and I love to get that backup on my gut instinct. Like, I follow my gut. My gut is what leads me, and these other things are just kind of reintegrating on that, building upon that. Like, this is what's happening. This is what the humidity is. This is what the gravity is. This is what the electricity is. Yada, yada, yada. It's very interesting, and I'm still expanding on my knowledge, like, not only on the paranormal level, but the scientific level. What happens in the atmosphere when these things come in? Like, it draws the energy and the power and humidity, all kinds of other things. It's just amazing how they do it, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. But yeah, just helping people. That's my key note, is helping people around me, whether it's Elaine Redwine or, you know, people in the community. There's this lady up the road that 2 girls back in the 80s, they got off the bus and this boy murdered them. Once they got off the bus, I think he murdered them and molested their bodies. And this lady is having a child with Down syndrome, and she's like, I want this place cleared before this innocent child is brought into this world, because I don't want it corrupted, because she's so pure and innocent. Like, it's so easy for things to corrupt that. And so that's what we're doing. We're fighting the battle against good and evil. And even if you look in the biblical reference or wherever else, there are texts that say that in the end times we will come in contact with our psychic abilities and our gifts, and we will build upon them, and we will use them the way that God sees fit, or the higher power, or whatever BTO or anybody else wants to call it. There is an energy, there is a higher power above us. Perhaps when we go to the other side, we'll build our own worlds, but at this point we are under a certain power. We are under certain jurisdiction, I believe. I feel like, don't you feel like there's some lines that we have to guide upon? Like, we have to follow these certain lines. There are different paths, but there is a certain structure that we have to build to get to.
Yes, I do. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. You know, I think about Elaine, and I think his name was the Warrens. You know, the Warrens that are so
The
famous
demonologist,
yes, for their gifts. And I really feel with all my heart that that you have that very same gift, and that you could be the next Frank and Eileen Warren, or I don't know if I have their name right, but I know it's pretty close. Do you know what's crazy? So I have this watch that I've had for a really long time, and it's a Citizen watch. It's an Eco Drive watch. It doesn't have to have a battery. And I looked down to see what time it was, and the face is shattered.
Wow.
The face is shattered. And I haven't hit it on anything, but the face is shattered.
What do you think
That's
it means?
crazy. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. It kind of makes me sad, though. But I don't know if it means anything.
Well, maybe as you came to a certain point in your life and you finally realized things, and it's breaking the structure of what you've fallen upon in the past, and you're not going back there anymore. You're not going to go past those cracks. You're going to keep moving forward and adapt and overcome, like I've said before, and learn from your past experiences and become the spirit that you're meant to be. Like, don't be held down by these demons and these other things. You can move past that, and you can be stronger. And I know you are, because you've always been a brilliant light in my life, and I really love and appreciate you for that, because I've always looked up to you and wanted to be like you and wanted to emulate you.
Oh, sis, that makes me so happy. Do you know it exactly stopped at the exact same time as our show started?
Really?
Yes.
I think this is a new beginning for us.
I think it is too. And it's about time for a new beginning. I feel naked without the watch, although I really have clothes on, just so y'all all know. I mean, which is rare. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Get your minds out of the gutter, Trip. Kevin, Moonlight, come on.
Hello.
Hello. Let's move on past this rift in the universe and not imagine Kathy with her clothes off.
Or you can. It's okay.
Yeah. Hey, we're open-minded, and we were raised in the gutter, and we do have a dirty sense of humor, and we really do love and appreciate it. I do. I
do
honest.
too.
Yes.
I do too.
It makes me happy.
It makes me very happy too. That is so crazy about the watch. What a note to end on. Something very, very different.
And that just happened tonight.
It did. It just happened. It just happened tonight. Like, I don't know. It really, like, I have goosebumps everywhere. Like, I don't know what it means.
I think it's Mom trying to communicate with us. And I'm going to do the outro music right now, which you may not hear because the headphones are not on my ears, and our guests generally can't hear this, but Kathy, if anybody wants to connect with you, where should they look? Kathy Michelle Weaver on Facebook, WEWER.
Yes, the one and only WEWER. Be sure to do the one that says Kathy Michelle I have 2 other accounts that I'm trying to eliminate because I can no longer access them for whatever reason, ex-boyfriend hackers that it is. So,
but if you see the picture that we shared tonight on our ad, you can find Kathy.
Yes, you can find me. But it's just Kathy Michelle. Do the one with the full middle name, and I would be happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk.
And Alyssa Mask is like, Tessa, you sound so happy, love. And I am, because I love my family and I cherish you. And I'm so happy you're here with me tonight, Kathy. I'm so totally stoked.
Me too. We've been planning this for a while, and I'm so happy to see it come to fruition.
Well, I love you, sissy. And you guys, if you want to come on the after party with us, it's 1-970-335-9596. Kathy, you want to say goodnight, and I'll do my outro?
Woohoo! Good night, everybody. Thank you for a wonderful show, for a wonderful time spending time together, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to have this time with everybody.
And I can never believe that the show is over when it is, because it goes so fast. But I'm going to do my outro right now. I love you, sissy.
Okay. I love you too.
Night-night. Thank you so much to my guest, Kathy. It was so wonderful having you on the show this evening. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else in the universe you are listening tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively. And I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night for Psychic Sundays on spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget, we are all in this together, and together we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we own the night. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there, because I'm a space case too. You guys have a wonderful Sunday. See you all back here tomorrow night. Nighty-night, love and light, and take care of yourselves. I love you lots. Bye-bye.